Call the start. Back in order. Mr. Rochelle, I'd like to move to Mr. Rochelle at this time. We need to add some stuff for his internal audit. Get that cleared up.
I mentioned it to you.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna get that.
Okay.
You want to amend it to $1,500?
Yeah, and, you know, if need be, and I found some money in the council general budget to be able to do that. You know, you need to, make sure you put
Yes,
the lobbyist figure in there.
Council General, lobbyists.
Yeah, I think we moved that funding over to the legislative liaison line item.
No, you had me put it in the council on
You might put it in
your
my-
consultants legislative liaison.
Right, that's right, Mr. Russo?
Yeah, speaking of
Yeah,
that,
same thing, I
Yes.
just didn't know,
So we have to get the budget.
I mean, if it's, I got you keep it
It's on,
in.
it's on.
so the procedure for today, we're gonna, get a feel for where we're at the end of the next presentations, and go from there.
We can, I started trying to put some of the stuff in. It looks like we're gonna be almost even, just about, you know, for what we put in and what we're taking out. And so, you know, you saw what we go with DP, with DP funding, and with $5.5 million being transferred over. I mean, so that's gonna leave us with about $300,000 in DP funding right now.
Right.
Now we're working on unreserved undesignated, so I'm gonna have to put everything in, you know, and then take all the reductions that y'all have, and then see where we stand.
What department expect we have to cover there, that we need to cover?
All right, I have permits, telecommunications, engineering, GIS, drainage, flood control, coastal zone management, coastal zone land, road maintenance, solid waste, waterworks.
We got several of them here already.
Yeah, that's why we're asking.
Yeah, I mean,
All right.
So the legislative liaison, y'all want to put it in the council or put it in the legislative liaison?
I think it should go personally underneath the council lobbyist, the one.
Yeah, I would prefer to leave it under the council.
Okay,
okay.
fine.
And then you
That's
have
council general lobbyist.
I'll give you an explanation.
Everybody understand what we're doing with the proposed amendment to the budget? Charlie, would you explain what you're doing, what you'd like to do?
We just added an additional $50,000 to the council budget for lobbyists. Correct?
yes, and we, what he's doing with Council General.
The council general, we have 40,000 under consultants, legislative liaison,
So you got
an
40.
increase.
What do we have under legal for council?
Should be 65, right?
And then an increase of $10,000 for professional services general,
Correct.
and $2,500 for other charges, special promotion, that's for y'all.
Right. That's what up.
Can't manage.
So we should have enough in the budget now to cover that
We
position.
haven't adopted the amendment.
Well, it's just an amendment.
That's an amendment.
All those are amendments, what you just said?
Yeah.
Yes,
I thought it was already in the budget.
No,
no,
No.
no.
that's stuff we're gonna put in.
Oh, okay. That's including the 50,000?
Yeah, I have 10 under professional services general and 40 under the legislative liaison.
Chairman, just to be straight on that, it was requested and then taken out.
Okay,
So that's why the amendment.
all right.
But there are also workers on the parish council general that we can move around to cover some of those amendments.
All right, let's move to the departments right quick. Engineering, you ready?
That's fine, engineers, you got a page down.
If we won't be next, y'all come up, so I'll have to be, trying to figure who's next, I will see, y'all come.
54, page 54.
64,
54.
54, I'm sorry.
My page.
Right page, 54.
Red page.
All right. Mr. Dudas, you have the floor, sir. Any comments and questions, concerns? The break page, sir. 54 on the break page?
Yes, sir. 64, red page. Engineering. Yeah, it's the same thing,
It's the
yeah.
same thing.
What you have?
Just less money.
I was just gonna point out a limited percent change in operating services.
Is that on?
Not all. I'm on.
Yeah, I know you are.
All right. I just wanted to point out that it says 6% increase in my budget for operating services. Part of that is being reflected from a deduct in capital outlay. There's a recurring expense for surveying services we get from LSU. That costs $3,500, so you'll see the deduct for that in capital outlay. And then there's another line item for data storage. That is $3,500, that's for our off-site server that we're using for our electronic archives. And if you take those out of the budget, it's actually a minus 4%. So I know Mr. Russo is big on negative.
Right, but, and while we say that, for the benefit of everybody in this audience, I want everybody to understand that I did not present this budget with all of these cuts in it. Because there's a lot of discussion going on in this area about me taking and cutting all of these poor people and all of these needy people, and it's a perfect time and segue for when you say that. The goal of this body today is to be able to fund as much as possible, and that's why we sit here and work through each line item, to be able to have funds at the end of the day to balance the budget for those poor people and those people in need that are being talked about and points the finger at me as being the person who's cutting me.
Well, I appreciate you mentioning that, Mr. Russo, because I didn't present it in this budget when I discussed this with finance, but sometime next year I am anticipating having the need for a new employee. I have 8 employees in my department right now. I'm hoping to get 9. So I'm just being patient with the oil prices in our budget, making sure we're good stewards and
What position is that?
I have a question.
Mr. Byrd?
Mr. Dugas, does this budget include the transfer or the
no, it does not.
taken out of the,
For a project manager position, no, sir, it does not. When that one is funded, it's anticipated that we would transfer the money from one position to the next. But that's not the position that I'm mentioning. I'm willing to wait till mid-year to see if we can get a new position.
In addition to the project
Just,
manager?
please, let's do some order here. All right, Mr. Williams?
Okay, he answered my question.
All right, Mr. Russell?
What position is it that you're looking for?
It could be another inspector. There's a chance that I may lose my inspector next year.
And that's
I would need it.
inspected, not a
I have one parish-wide inspector right now.
Is that's for like construction work, building?
Yes, sir.
Well, I think that we need to address that now.
Well, we still have one working on patient.
Well, this is why I'm saying this, because contractors contact me and say that they wait days before they can get their slabs inspected. And is that the same
That's
effect?
not different.
That's why I was asking
They
this.
need one too. They need one too. They do a
We
third-party
have one,
inspection.
yeah.
Right, so that's another department. But anyway, you're talking about for parish projects.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're on page 64. Any comments on 64? Any concerns dealing with page 64?
Question.
Okay, question? Yes, go ahead, Ms. Williams.
So being that the project manager position was approved by the council, I know we didn't fund it, we approved the position itself, correct?
He has enough funding within his department right now to add, no additional funding is needed. But civil services requires some other ordinance to be adopted.
They're requiring a position to be, the appropriation made for that position.
But
Before we can,
he has enough funding within his department now. We said he didn't need any additional funding if he was just gonna move from that position to the other one.
Okay.
Civil services requiring something
So we
else.
don't need to allocate additional funding for that position, that's my question.
Not in 17, if not if that
What about 18?
employee is gonna move from that position to the project manager.
But there will be an increase in pay, correct?
yes, ma'am.
But with he had some additional funds in there, it would have covered it.
Okay, but what about for 18?
I'm in the process of making an amendment because it's not in the 18 budget.
Okay.
That was my question, is, was that included for 18?
No, because he never got moved,
So we need to find out what we actually need that civil service is
If we
requiring.
do this, I think in 18 she will move him.
Okay.
There's a chance for us to do an anticipated advertisement of the position. We've discussed that with the administration to get that started in line when the funding is available.
Okay, since I have no question on page 64, let's move to the next item, please. Page, you have 65, 10 more pages?
Yeah, he has 65 also.
Huh?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, engineering and public works. Any comments on that? Mr. Dugas?
That's the only two comments I made was for the,
All right.
for
Table, any questions? Administration? Okay, we're gonna move to the next item, please.
The next thing I have is John's permits.
Okay,
That's page 61.
all right.
Great pages.
Your page is 61?
Yes, sir. 61.
61, permit.
61.
Permit? Morning. Morning. Questions? Yeah, you have any concern with the budget, the proposed budget on page 61 and 62?
I have a budget that we have proposed. It's simply status quo. There are no changes. It's a basic operating budget with no proposed requested increases in any of the line items. I would, however, like to, if I could, address the situation that Mr. Russell brought up earlier.
Go ahead.
About inspections. The situation as it stands now with inspections is that we still have one inspector for the entire parish, Mr. Vukovich, who is our chief inspector. At one point, we had 3.
So you need 2 more?
Well, actually, the council approved for me to advertise for one inspector, which was a combination, as you may recall, it's a combination residential inspector, which would be a tremendous help. The problem is with it is, what it says now, the hiring process, is that we have not been able to attract any interest, basically due to the level of the salary. So, understanding that that may be the more difficult situation to address, I have spoken with President Cormier, and we've come up with some other options. One of the other options would be, and let me just go back and say if I could, when people complain that we're 3 or 4 days or having to wait 3 days or 4 days for a slab inspection, what they are talking about is, in my opinion, is how that compares to what they are used to in Plaquemines Parish. When we had 3 inspectors, even when we had 2 inspectors, we prided ourselves on having a 1 to 2 day, at the most, turnaround on inspection. People become used to that, and in all due respect to them, I can understand why, but when you look at how we compare to other jurisdictions, the days that we request are often not so different than inspection scheduling and time that it takes to schedule inspections in other jurisdictions. So, but that's irrelevant. I realize that because it's what people are used to in Plaquemines Parish, and we have slid off that mark. There's no doubt about it. When you have one inspector that's handling an entire parish, you're going to drop off some. I do not feel that we have dropped off to a level to where we are at meltdown or critical mass at this point. But it's hard. It's difficult to stay where we are now. So some of the other options that I want to present to President Cormier and then ultimately this council would be to, number 1, consider hiring at least 1 part-time inspector. It's a little hard to understand when you look at a full-time opportunity with salary, benefits, pension, et cetera, everything we offer here. that it would be easier to hire a part-time guy. But at this particular point in time, I honestly think it would, because while we may not be able to attract a qualified, fully certified, as required by state law, inspector at the salary we have now, we may be able to attract one who wants to supplement his income in afternoons and weekends, which would help out greatly, and it would be at a great savings right now in our difficult budget times. You would say, even from the lower level inspector salary that we're advertising for now, you would save thousands of dollars a year annually in salaries, pension, benefits, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one option. Another option would be to get a fully certified and qualified inspector to do a service provider agreement with the administration and the permit office to do piecework, to come in. There are sort of a hired gun approach with third-party providers. There are fully qualified people that do this type of work, that are fully certified under state law to do so. So those are some of the options we're looking at that I will be presenting to President Collier, who has taken naturally a keen interest in this and understands what we're up against. And that's where we are.
Councilman Burke and Councilman Black.
And Mr. Metcalf, to what level, as far as technology, is your office up to par with right now? I mean, could additional software, online permitting, online follow-up, like some of the other municipalities currently have, would that help?
Which we do have. We use a permit system software called My Permits Now, which is the latest and greatest version in the state of Louisiana permitting software. It's used by several jurisdictions in the state of Louisiana, and it's a good program. And I feel fortunate that I have been able to convince during these hard budget times to maintain and keep that program in place, because we do, it's reasonable, I believe, for what it is we get, but we do pay monthly for it. So.
Would that also include the oil and gas permits?
It could be augmented and grown to include that, but there are fees associated. And we feel that Ms. Raggis does an excellent job at this point, and we haven't seen the need for the cost to roll it into that area. It is capable of doing that.
I just think it'd be a value-added service to the folks that are actually, doing the permitting and actually, looking for the.
So it's certainly something that we could look into. It's not where I necessarily feel the bleeding is right now, but it's something we could.
Easy to do business.
Pardon?
Easy to do business with. Thank you.
Councilman Black, and Councilman LaPede, and Councilman Williams.
Thanks, Mr. Metcalf, for that explanation and recommendations. A couple questions for finance. The position that we funded that's unfilled, that Mr. Metcalf can't try qualified applicants for, what's the total amount, do you know, that is in this current proposal?
53,000.
That includes salaries and insurance and everything?
Yes, 53,440.
53,440. All right, my suggestion would be to eliminate that position, take that funding, create 2 part-time positions. That way it'd give you 26,000 per. And then, because when you ask for an inspection, you or Mr. Bunovich could create a schedule. If a contractor asks for an inspection, calls on Monday, you can schedule them all on Wednesday and have certain inspection days.
What we do,
Right, so I guess my point, well, belaboring this thing, is that you don't need people every day of the week. You can schedule it a couple days a week. You can have Mr. Bunovich, but then you can schedule around when the part-time people come in.
what we could do is we could use the part-time person for lack of a better term, put out the fires. Things that are burning, contractors that need something on a very quick turnaround because there's concrete trucks coming.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, and that was my second question. On the very quick turnarounds, do you have, like if I don't get a passport, for instance, I apply for a passport, it costs me $100. If I'm on an expedited passport, it costs me $200 or $150, whatever it is, and I get it in a week. Do you have a program or a policy in which a contractor calls you and says, I need something expedited, when they know that your turnaround is 3 days, and they say, Mike, I have a pour coming tomorrow morning. Well, yeah, you can pay an expedited rate or fee, and we will promise you we'll have an inspection within 24 hours. Do you have that?
Well, our policy is to take those items that we know need more attention than other items on the 2 days. Basically what happens is that the Port Sulphur office gets John 2 days a week, we get him the other 2 days a week, and that 5th day is used for kind of running where you need to go. What we're trying to do is give those things priorities within that scheduling capability.
Well, look, and you run your department fine, I'm not going into the inner workings of the department. What I will offer, and, I would ask my colleagues' support, is to take the 53,440 from the full-time position, just eliminate it completely, and move that money to 2 part-time positions. Is that something that you made the recommendation, but is that something that would work for you? For you?
I can tell you that it's kind of uncharted territory. We haven't done it, but I think that there's a lot of potential in it.
What's the other, what's the
And Councilman Black, you're absolutely right. We've got to try something to get some inspections out then. So I would agree with it and be very, very appreciative of it.
All right, if nobody has any objections from the table, I would actually ask to put that in an amendment, please.
Okay,
I think with understanding we're doing a probationary period, so we won't have something drag for the year if it's not working. Figure some kind of way to deal with those people on probationary period. Mr. Lapine?
Mr. Metcalf, you said you're having a tough time getting applicants. Not only just it's the price, it's also the qualifications that people need. Is that correct?
That's correct. People that are qualified, and not to elaborate too much, but everything changed after Katrina when the qualifications that inspectors had to have became state law. It changed the way we hire, the way people pay salaries. Anytime you put a license or a registration on somebody, it changes their whole ability to apply for jobs and become more valuable. People become scarce who can't get certifications, and that has certainly come into play in what it is we're trying to do. Just so, and I use this as an example, just to kind of illustrate, the inspector that we recently lost was a fully certified, he was the cream of the crop. He had he was the high water mark. He had the 4 certifications for residential and 4 certifications for commercial. He's what you want. He took a job, left Blackman's Parish, and took a job making close to $25,000 more a year than he was making in Blackman's. So,
One more please. Let me get the mic.
so that
And I guess it's such a critical need, but are we going to be in the worst shape if Mr. Vukovich think about retiring?
that's something else that weighs very heavy on me right now, is that Mr. Vukovich is eligible for retirement, and at times he's very stressed out, and that's something that I have to consider.
We've been in the worst shape than we are right.
So yeah, if we lose Mr. Vukovich as a full-time inspector, to be honest with you, we're going to have a whole nother dire situation to address. I don't foresee that happening, hopefully, within the next, year, if I'm reading Mr. Vukovich right, but that is something to definitely take into consideration.
All right, one more question.
Councilman Williams?
Yes.
And Councilman Burke?
Mr. Metcalf, there's been some talks amongst
You have to, Mr. Williams, you have to.
amongst our council in regards to a code enforcement officer to carry out the legislations that we're passed, because I know we don't have that right now, and we're in need of that. Would that be something that could be like a dual role between an inspector / code enforcement officer? I'm just trying to throw it out there.
It could, but it's two entirely different areas of enforcement of either ordinance or adopted ordinance.
Okay.
The building official is a technical position, whereas code enforcement is more abatement issues, high grass, trash, abandoned homes, things that are quality of life issues. We did have two. They were working at one time in the permit office. The positions way back when were transferred to the health department because working with the then, or with we're working with Ray, we felt that the job title was more suited for day-to-day work in the health department. But they still work very closely with us, and they're very missed. They're sorely missed at this point.
Right, well, I just kind of was thinking on the terms of as far as, people not having the proper permits and licensings and things of that nature. That's where, an inspector would have all of that readily available in their computer, that they could pull it up, if someone was reported to not have the proper.
It's not out of, I can tell you, as far as the person doing kind of dual roles, of course, you're looking at, if we're talking part-time position, you're talking about necessarily more hours in a week's time than maybe would fit under the classification of part-time, but it's not out of possibility. It's not impossible. It would be kind of a hybrid situation as far as the employee is concerned, but for lack of a better term, but.
Mr. Rousseau?
Yeah, Mr. Metcalf, going in the opposite direction, would it be easier for you to hire a licensed just plumber inspection or a licensed electrical inspector versus someone who holds all trade licenses?
It would be a situation because we've never considered that, and that's never really been the way we've been. The reason why we're set up with combination inspectors is because the way the inspections are laid out and done geographically in the parish. It was that way when I arrived, and I can see the logic in it. It's hard if you have a position in Buras or Port Sulphur, and you have somebody that's based out of Belchase or vice versa. It's difficult to send all 4 people to that location when you're dealing with a limited staff. Other jurisdictions do that, and not only do they do it, it's the norm. Jefferson Parish, New Orleans, St. Tammany, they use what we call trade inspectors, which handle just those areas. But it's either one or two things. It works because, to use Grattan as an example, the jurisdiction is much smaller. Orange, Jefferson Parish, where the jurisdiction is larger, there's a bigger staff. So it's not something that, it may be easier, Councilman Rousseau, but it would take some real thought as to whether or not it would be effective, if that answers your question.
Well, I kind of knew the answer to begin with, but the historical perspective is that we had done that prior to you coming aboard, to where we would have a licensed plumber inspector or a licensed electrical inspector, and what they would do after they came aboard, they would learn and get licensed in the other trades, and would enhance their position to be able to get to the point where Mr. Vukovich is. And so it's kind of like a growing into the job situation. And it's just something for thought, but I'll leave that and move on to my next question. In the budget you have auditing for borough pits, and you have engineering for borough pits, and a decline in revenue for auditing and a tremendous increase in engineering. So do you know if we have resolved the borough pit issue, or which direction we are going with that, since we have about $32,000 in the budget?
And Councilman Rochelle, I don't want to brush your question off, but I may need legal's help with that. We are not, as simply the facilitators of the permit, as ball pit as well. I'm not really sure if we're the contractors or the...
Let me ask you this. This is budgeted in your department. Do you approve the invoices?
Pardon, I'm sorry?
This is in your budget under your line items. Do you approve the invoices?
I do approve the invoices in a sequence of other approvals. I require other approvals before I approve the invoice.
Councilman Rousseau, as I understand understand it, because I've not been involved in the borrow pit process for about a year and a half now, but as I understand it, Berg Glass and Tankersley are trying to draft a new and improved borrow pit ordinance. So I think this money was budgeted with permit because we still have that agreement with the auditing company and the engineering firm Myers to do the inspections. Now, I don't know if those are going on or not. I don't think they are. I think everything's on hold, to be honest with you, except for the permitting process itself and the routine take of the renewals and that sort of thing. I know that I was reported about a month ago, Ms. Val brought me a list of people who need to be acted upon legally, and so we're working on that. But this is, that's where that situation is. That's all I can tell you personally.
And just to add to that, Councilman Russell, the revenue on borrow pits at this particular point in time is set. It's not a fluid amount. You have X number of borrow pits that pay X number of non-changing fees, and the income comes from that. And it's not at this point, it's not really an amount that's up or down. And these figures should always be based, and I have never totally understood, and at this particular point, I don't totally know the status of the three contract players. I think what Mr. Chang said, Mr. Landry said, it's kind of in flux right now. But those amounts should always be set to that set amount that comes in. You got 4 ball pits, you got 4 annual fees, you got, unless of course that you're talking about sales taxes and things like that. The only thing that should change, it should be road use, and I don't think we've ever arrived at the point where we need to be with that.
So let me just follow up on that. The borrow pit operators in the parish today, are they renewing and paying their fees?
Yes, they are.
So we should have a law.
Yes, they are. If you like, I can, at any time, I can get the council an updated report of where that stands, who has paid, who has not.
So let me just get to the question that I really want to answer to. The litigation that one of the borrow pit owners has filed against the government challenging the constitutionality of the borrow pit ordinance. Have they paid?
No, they have not paid. They have paid certain fees, but they have not paid others, is my understanding.
Have they paid the permit fee, the $10,000 per year fee?
Yes. My understanding, yes, that they have.
They're one of the only ones that do.
I believe this is an issue with them, as I recall, of road use. I think it goes to the heart of
They don't want to have to backfill because they went and sold some dirt to Jefferson Parish. That's what that's about. Right.
I don't know what's at the heart of the litigation. I'm privy to that.
At the council meeting when we renewed that borrow pit permit, they challenged the constitutionality of the ordinance, but yet under the ordinance they justified that.
Okay, so
they paid.
like I say, as I understand, there is the road. It's the road use fees that are out there right now. The annual renewal fees have been paid, from my understanding.
On that particular borrow pit operator, as I understand it, yes.
Yes.
Could you just provide us a list of that?
Absolutely. Anytime I can put you together a list of who pays, when they pay, when their annual renewals are due, have they paid road use, have they paid, I don't have it with me now, but I can easily provide it to you.
Yeah, let's get that and then highlight or the ones that haven't paid.
Okay, Councilman.
So I guess we leave this money in the budget? This is my bottom line question.
Mr. Landry, again, I don't understand.
I wouldn't spend it on the consultants anymore, but we might could use it to do the abatement and the enforcement. So if maybe that's what we should do, is just redesignate it as enforcement money, and then at least I have something to work with.
I don't really understand the status of the consultants at this point. So
I don't either, to be honest.
Okay.
It's a service contract, it's 2 years, it's up anyway.
We saw that Mr. Juno, then Mr.
Councilman Black. Ms. Sauer?
Yes, good morning.
Ms. H.
My only comment,
I didn't know you had anything. Go ahead.
my comment, Chairman, would be to Mr. Dugas's point and Mr. Metcalf, is that I think to my colleagues that we need to just be mindful and consider that department really needs qualified individuals. And in the long term, this parish is going to benefit from that. You know, you just can't try to piecemeal this with part-timers or whatever. And I understand where certain members are coming from trying to make a bad situation better. But I would encourage my colleagues to just, you know, we're just going to have to bite the bullet. You know, there are some other areas that we could possibly cut or either reduce down. But I think those two departments, you know, because I ran into problems mainly in permitting when there's construction contracts, when I have questions that I can't get answers. You know, and we're making choices that's going to affect this parish long term. So, you know, I understand Ms. Val and all of those people are inundated with work. They're behind on a lot of issues, but they're doing a great job in my opinion. But I think that when we're talking about hiring inspectors and engineers, we need to bite the bullet and we need to really get qualified folks there and hire them and cut, because I can name a few areas that we can cut.
Mr. Janelle?
Yes, Mr. Mitchell, I know you don't have any full-time people on the list that you can hire. Do you have any part-time people that you have on the list that you know of that's interested?
Well, we haven't advertised, Councilman Juneau, for part-time, so we haven't had any responses. But I just feel, personally, somewhat confident that there are individuals out there that would gladly take a part-time role to supplement their incomes, do things for us. Later in the afternoon, early in the morning, it's a little difficult this time of year because it gets dark at 5:30, but you know, contractors are usually more than open to inspections on Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, early in the morning, very early in the morning, before the individual would go to his regular job. That may be something that would bear a little bit more results than trying to hire for this position that it's not, and that's another consideration that I could throw out there. I don't know. It's a civil service position. I don't know.
And I want to ask you about civil service. Would they put a kink in the wheel, or have you talked to them already?
Well, and I stay in pretty close touch with Ellen on this position, and we worked it together when we went to from the full combination inspector to combination residential inspector. But my point I was getting at is, I guess another option would be, and I don't know exactly what types of steps this would take, because it's a civil service position and how it may throw the pay scale out of whack with other positions. But I guess another option would be to raise the salary in that position. That may attract. It's a little more time consuming than what we need right now. I'm looking for something that we can plug in and use right away, because the need is real and it's now, but it's something for the future that the council and the administration might want to consider.
Councilman Black?
I'll let the president go first.
You bet. All right, Councilman Ishmael?
Mr. Metcalf, on the independent inspectors, are they pricey, or would that be an option to try to use those in the meantime to try to get some of the inspections?
It's absolutely an option.
I know some of the local contractors have used independent for slide inspections.
And while we do not encourage them to do it, if the time frame, and that's an option that is open to contractors, the same law that requires us all to be certified and registered with the state also provides for the option for contractors to use third-party providers that are certified in the same manner we are, who are registered with the state, that can act and satisfy inspections that local jurisdictions need in a third-party role. And sometimes, and it's not something that we are encouraging, but then again, if a contractor is completely behind you know, the 8 Island, he's got to move forward, he's got a court coming up. We do suggest, look, if we can't get to it quick enough, you have a lawful option to use a third-party provider, and some have taken that option.
Okay. The next question I have is for, I guess, Shane. I thought Myers, we were supposed to cease using Myers.
We've talked about it, I don't know that they're, well, we're not using them now, we're not paying them anything. So, I mean, I guess it's functionally the same thing, Councilman Edgecombe. To my knowledge, they've not sent invoices, nor have we paid them anything in about 2 years now. Maybe a year and a half.
They need to pass legislation to omit that.
These individuals, third party, can be used by the jurisdiction as well, kind of as service providers. Kind of hired guns, for lack of a better term, just come in and help out when
Something to use in the meantime until we get either part-time or like Ms. Audrey said.
Certainly an option.
Level.
If it's, you know, if agreeable to the administration and the council, it's certainly an option.
Mr. President?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to put this in context, and thank you, Mr. Metcalf, for your service. He's 2/3 short inspectors. But the problem is, in my opinion, is that the salary range, yes, the cost of the parish is set aside as $53,000. The salary, that means is only $33,000. Because when you back out health insurance and all benefits that go with government work. So that is the problem. I mean, you're asking for a full-time certified inspector to come work for $33,000 a year, and I think that's way below the regional average. And I think if we get that number up from 33,000, I think we could possibly attract another full-time. That way we'd only be short one inspector.
Any other comments from the table?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan?
Yes, and I agree totally, and this is the problem here. You know, we keep comparison, using this analogy and comparing, you know, what's happening in Orleans Parish and all of the neighboring municipalities and all, but the bottom line is, you know, we used to use New Orleans as the model, you know, whenever there was even things or comments made from the floor in regards to the recent development with sewage and water works. You know, it was always a comparison. Oh, you know, what I used to do and what happened in sewage and water works. Well, we just recently saw the finality of what was happening in sewer and water works in New Orleans. So the bottom line is we need to bring this parish up to the level that it should be and try to attract qualified individuals, as I said earlier, that's going to benefit this parish in the long run. You know, when you won't be having incidents that happen out at the Blueville Community Center and all of these different, you know, we're still constructing, we're still doing a lot of development in this parish. So we need to have qualified individuals to protect our interests.
If I could respond to that, I couldn't agree with you more, Councilman Savant. My standard is not what other jurisdictions do. Listen, I was proud in front of my peers, who I see on a regular basis, building officials across the state, to stand and proudly say, and a lot of people were shocked and maybe even felt like I was stretching the truth when I told them I had 24 hours turnaround on inspections, and that was the standard and the norm that we used in my office. I'm very sad to lose that at this point. We take a lot of pride in what we do, and I'm very sad not to be able to say that anymore. So, thank you for your comment.
Thank you. We had two discussions, one on the raw pit and one on the inspector. But Mr. Barber said about the raw pit, maybe he can tell us where we are now, since there was some discussion before you got here concerning. All right. Because anyway, that's why we haven't met as a committee, because we haven't got to any kind of consensus. We have a direction we'd like to go into, present it to this council, and one is to come up with a standardized ordinance for the pit operation, and also the ordinance to resolution on ordinance to terminate the consultants that we have.
and to take whatever funding that we accumulate from the pits to hire another consultant at the pleasure of this council to maintain the function and the functioning accordingly to the ordinance that would have been approved by this particular council. So that's where we are with the committee at this point in time. No other comments? Okay, Mr. Chairman, move next item, please.
Thank you.
I will.
Next thing I have is telecommunications.
Do we have everybody in here? We have drainage, we have prom in the back.
Okay,
and
so
water.
drainage.
You need to talk about telecommunications for IT.
Yeah, telecommunications too now, the last council meeting, I think it was council meeting before you split that into IT, so,
Yeah.
we'll have to
We have an
get,
amendment to move some of the expenditures from telecom to
right, because this
IT.
was done in the middle, but this we did as well, so we do have an amendment for that.
Well, you want to just move on that and what you have? Do you have to have them to come in?
I mean, we have the amendment, we
We have
can
an
show you
amendment,
where, you know, but.
Bob, and he separated out the budget.
Mr. President,
Or we can wait till they come in, I don't know where
wait till
they
they come in? Wait. Okay, let's go over with
Go to drainage.
drainage.
Drainage, Greg just stepped up.
Oh, he did.
No, he's there.
You got it?
Oh, there he is.
Oh, there he is.
All right, let me get a page for you.
69 on the great page.
69. That's great.
The great mother of time.
They're looking at that $4,500.
Right. Yeah, stock shop.
All right, 69, Greg,
It's all of them together. It's just so-
got comments on page 69, and then, the budget for 69 and 70? Any
I don't
concerns?
have any comments. If it's adopted like it is, we
Okay. All right. Chamber, any questions from the chamber? Mr. Russell?
Mr. Simpson, to track the pump, not the tractor, the pump on the pond, do we have any money or do we need funding to put that back in service? That's actually accounted for, the 80,000 under, pump maintenance. It's maintenance drainage pump. It'd be 528.24. So that's for the, 20,000 of that is for the laying of that HDPE pipe for that pumping station.
So, I don't know, Mr. Russell?
That was, fuel and everything is good, so. Yes.
Yeah, Greg, all this is not my district, it's actually Mr. Edgecombe's district. I would just like to thank you, your staff, and also Mr. Landry for working very tirelessly to get that alley pump repair expedited and completed as fast as you did. So on behalf of the residents of Jezreel Bend, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I just want to verify that if the salaries include the 6 pump operators that he's planning on hiring.
I only showed 2 vacant on here, the other ones haven't, retired yet. So the 2 that have already vacated, retired, or funded.
Okay, but the 6 that we approved that were supposed to be trainees,
Y'all had suggested yesterday for us to prepare an amendment to unfund those.
right, but so we're gonna fund them as needed into his budget as they're hired?
Well,
I think-
what I understand, 2 more are retiring in December. Those will still be funded, so he can just hire them directly into
As
their
they,
department.
Joe?
I have 2 operators that are retiring in December. One of them, his last day is this Sunday, and he will be gone. That's the alley pump operator. And I have a plan to cover that within the department. But Carl Beulah runs the Gaynard Wood Station. He's retiring in, I think it's December 17th. He's leaving. Michael Ragus, my foreman, is retiring Sunday is his last day. And at the next council meeting, there will be an introduction for an ordinance to lift the hiring freeze for that foreman position so that we can go ahead and advertise and actively try to fill that position. Because, like I stated before, the foreman in my department also act as pump operators, so does the diesel mechanic.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we have the funding available at, because I know you want it in as trainees, but it looks like they're just going to be coming in straight as operators those retire.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, I have 2 people that have gone through the process, taking physicals and all, to take the 2 positions that are vacant. Just need, I believe, according to civil service yesterday, I need a signature from Mr. Conway, and then they can actually report the work.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that the funding was available for the people that you needed.
If nothing's been removed other than the 6 interim, we will have it covered. We will replace as they leave.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Based on, then Mr. Juno,
Actually,
then Mr. Brett, then Mr. Levine.
I was third in line and I moved back.
Oh, excuse
So
me.
you left there?
It was you, wasn't Mr. Juno, it was you. Go ahead.
I was gonna ask about the manpower, which, Nicole did. I would like to echo Mr. Charlie and say thank you for getting that pump back online as fast as y'all did. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Mr. Levine.
Mr. Simpson, at this present time, is there any pump station with any down pump or any malfunction right now?
Scarsdale Pumping Station has 1 of the 4 pumps out of service.
That's the only thing that's out.
That's the one that's under the FEMA project that FEMA has written a PW and obligated the PW for, and the parish needs to come up with the matching funds to cover our portion of it, which is roughly $2.5 million. And in total, it's a $10 million project.
So we're running at 75%?
We're 75% at Scarsdale, and the chain drops there are over 50 years old, and that is really the weak link in the system there. And we really need to move forward with this money. I'm afraid if we don't move forward, FEMA's going to take the money away from the project because we haven't acted quickly enough on it.
Okay, thank you.
I just have a quick question. So you got somebody that's retiring from the Alley Pump Station, like this week?
Yes.
Next week?
Yes.
And you said you had an ordinance for next council meeting?
For the foreman position.
Okay. Can we introduce that at the special council meeting this afternoon? That way we can expedite that process and not have to wait an additional to January?
Good idea, Councilman Burke.
Thank you.
Also, I have a memo here to authorize civil service to actively advertise that position. Mr. Conway?
Okay, thanks, Ms. Sullivan.
Yeah, that was gonna be my comment. Is there any way that we can require civil service to be in attendance for the remainder of this budget hearing? Because there's a lot of comments that being made alluded to civil service, and if she's present, that way she can know the expectation of this council. A lot of things could be resolved right here. So, Mr. Cormier, is there any way we can request that Ms. Barrios be in attendance?
I will, thank you, Councilman Salman. I will send a text message right now.
The other concern is the Scarsdale pump station. If and when we do the elevation renovation of it, that we'll be able to change those parts that need to be changed in the process.
That's it. That's in the scope of the work. And what the game plan is with the construction sequence is we're going to take the pump that's out of service right now. That will be the first piece of equipment elevated and retrofitted so that we can get it back online, and then it will move down the line on the other units.
Mr. Councilman Black?
Yeah, just one quick thing. As of what happened just now, this exchange, I agree with Ms. Solomon. We need to get Ellen in here, and if all department heads can bring the same form that you have, that authorizes the civil service to go ahead and post the positions, that would be great, because I mean, now it's really quick, and then you can give it to Ellen, and then it gets posted, and we hire people that we need, that we funded. So, I'm not sure if that was planned, but it looked good.
It's on my behalf.
Okay. Hopefully other departments have to do the same thing, learn from you. Good job.
I'm good, thank you.
All right, Mr. General?
Yes, sir. Let me ask you, since you're losing a lot of people, do you have anybody in your manpower that can be promoted to foreman?
I'm hoping to because of the experience that they would bring with them and the knowledge of the department. We're just gonna have to advertise and see who applies and for promotion with them.
Okay, thank you.
If we have criteria that civil service that mandate for them to go to, right? Administration, any question? Hearing none, thank you, sir. Any other, we have any more drainage, items? Any more drainage?
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll go to Prime, we have Prime in the back.
Prime, we'll go around, yeah. Get your page.
The machine, the cuts. Keep it back and clean.
Page
We have,
82,
82.
gray.
Was it great, page 82?
Gray, yeah.
All right, anyone at the table have any questions on page 82? Anyone at the table? Mr. Greg, do you have anything you want to discuss on your,
No, the budget is adopted as is. We can make it work.
administration, any comments? Table, any comments? Ms. Williams?
I just want to thank you for a job well done. The grass along the Highway 23, the ditches, all that looks very good. Appreciate it, Mr. Bradford. You always do a great job. Fort Jackson looks great too.
All right, thank you.
I could use a couple of it, your own reach out.
I seen one this morning in Port Southwood.
I need further up. I was gonna have that conversation with you.
Chairman.
All right, what about road maintenance?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Levine? Councilman Black?
He was first, I'll go behind.
Yeah, quick question on the 180,000 for the state contract. Is that money put back in, Tommy, or where is that at?
No.
No, we don't have the manpower to do the job for the state. And that's when Councilman Black, you're one of the ones who, when we put the ordinance up to rehire, no new employees, rehire 12 tractor drivers, it was amended and cut down to 2. So can't do what you don't, with what you don't have.
I was asking a question of where the 180,000 that we used to pay the state has gone into.
And that we used to receive.
We received, yeah.
Right.
Where, so,
We just took it out. We're not receiving it anymore, so.
The 2017 budget, was it affected in the 2017 budget?
Yeah, 2017 too, yeah, we didn't receive it in 2017.
I know, but we had to make that deduction on
Well,
that.
I mean, we could, but we, like I said, I got an ordinance at the end, but the last council meeting, there's a catch-all, and it's probably be included in that.
Mr. Levine?
That's it, I got it, thank you.
Mr. Rousseau?
Yes, in this budget, for road maintenance, are there additional funded positions in this?
Not to my knowledge, I don't know if any was added. We have one position we currently advertising for right now for a tractor driver 2. And I'm in the same situation with Greg. I have 3 people that's retiring in December, 2 tractor drivers and a foreman. So one of them is, his last day is going to be Monday, this upcoming Monday. Foreman is leaving on the 27th of December, and the other tractor driver, he's going to be gone by the end of December also.
Well, the reason I asked that is because in the budget, there's an increase in salaries and wages of $380,000. So obviously, those positions are funded in your department. Now, whether they'll be there at the end of the day, I don't know, but, so you weren't aware of that?
No, I wasn't aware of any employees that was placed in to be hired that was added to what we have already.
According to the manpower for 2018, it's 11 additional bulk right-of-way maintenance driver 2.
So that's that's the 11 additional, that's added into that funding. Well, as we stated earlier, at previous council meeting, we have 12 vacant pieces of equipment. But if we gonna move forward with hiring and starting to run those 12 pieces of equipment, then we probably gonna need to adjust our operating budget at some point to maintain all that equipment.
All right, thank you.
Mr. President, would you like to comment? No? Okay.
Anybody else at the table?
I just say that's a good point.
Road maintenance, finished with that, anything else? Hearing none? Any other comments?
No,
Go ahead.
the only other thing I had just to mention for future reference in prom is to our sideboard cutters was purchased in 06 after Katrina, and we still operating those pieces of equipment. They pretty much wore out, and they costing us quite a few dollars to keep running every year. To purchase a new piece of equipment with a sideboard and tractor on state contract, the cost is around $95,000. So eventually we're going to have to look into replacing those 4 pieces of equipment. That's all I have on that.
And lines are costing more to keep those things up, mechanically repairs, it's not like we buy something overall.
Right.
All right, thank you, sir.
If we're going to move to bridges,
You want to move, that's fine.
yeah, let me tell you, bridges.
Whatever you're in charge of, let's look at it. We'll go to bridges.
Yeah, bridges, we'll have to go to white pages because it's combined all together, you know what I mean? So see,
Brad, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, on the bridge, I noticed, the money was taken out for, maintenance of bridges. We've been paying for bridges out of prom budget for a long time. And,
34, white.
one bridge expense, the bridge go down is, costs anywhere from $2,500 to $4,500 for the people to come out and repair, and just depending on what's wrong with it. One hydraulic hose, that's actually underneath the bridge, costs $2,500. So, being that my prom budget been pretty much cut, I like to see we're getting some money added into bridge maintenance. We did leave $10,000 into bridge maintenance under the prom budget, but I don't foresee that being enough to cover the expenses of maintenance of that bridge. Because we didn't, I'm already supplying the parts and the supplies for oil and grease out of the prom budget for the bridge.
Mr. H.
Mr. Brooks, did we ever get reimbursed for that last accident on the Highway 11 bridge when the brakes failed in the vehicle?
That would be a human resource question. They handles that part of it. I wouldn't
Do you
know.
recall what the damages were?
The damages were somewhere on the upper end of $7,500, if I remember. Because we had to replace 2 barricades.
What amount would you be looking at to add into the budget?
Well, provided we got the 10,000 stays in prom under bridge maintenance, I'll be looking for at least another 20,000.
Tommy, if you would, could you go on the minute on that?
Bridges?
Yeah.
And the other thing I have is, if we could fund one of the part-time positions back for the bridge. Right now, we're running with the 4 bridge tenders, and of course, when one of them take off, I have to use a tractor driver to go run the bridge. And that's taken away from my grass cutting. And then on top of that, if you take off on the weekend, I gotta pay overtime for the 12 hours overtime for the tractor driver to go run the bridge. Now, they work a 7 and 7 schedule, So the two bridge tenders that's off, when I call them in, I still have to pay them overtime to fill in the holes. So, I would greatly appreciate if we could find funding to hire a part-time bridge tender to alleviate some of the overtime.
Councilman Williams?
Yes, I see that there was about a $15,000 increase in salaries for bridges. Rochelle, can you tell me, does that include an additional employee or part-time? No? Oh, no, well, it wasn't that much. I'm looking at the actuals. It was about an $8,000 increase.
No, all that was removing the vacancies during the middle of the year, now we're funding them for the full year.
The vacancies? So does he have a vacant position in bridges?
No, but I think he had one during the year, right?
They don't have one on the list of vacant, that list y'all gave us. I don't see one.
Some of that is the 3% increase. And
Okay.
it's just funding them all for the full year.
The current ones he has.
4 of them, yes.
And you would like a part-time for whenever someone takes off, is that?
Right, when they take off on vacation or out for personal reasons, sick leave, I end up having to use a tractor driver most of the time to cover the shift, and it's costing overtime.
Well, why not pay one of those other bridge tenders overtime? Are they not willing to work?
Well, some of them are, but at times, they aren't, so I have to go to a tractor driver. We try to use the bridge tenders because they pay us less than a tractor driver, but when they're not available, we got to.
Right, okay. I was just wondering if the increase entailed any additional employees.
Anybody else? I think it would be to our advantage to give them a part-time person because people that are employed, the overtime will exceed
A
the
part-time.
amount of money that the part-time worker.
How much would a part-time be, Michelle? Part-time bridge tender. Can you do an amendment?
Okay.
How much would it be?
You add to it. Mr. Brooks, anything else?
That's all I have.
All right.
He's ready.
So we have 20 and a part-time worker, right? You're going into bridges. All right.
Now it's
Next item. Huh?
Y'all want the maintenance with the bridge tender, or y'all want separate?
Well, now it's convenient to do part-time.
Separate.
Separate?
Wow.
Solid waste is next. We'll start with that. Huh? All right, well, we can go to, Mr. Fowler, you ready? Ready? Well, Dr. Dow, ready? Right. All right, what item, one please?
Go to the white pages,
What page?
the service combined with ST, and she doesn't pay her that for it.
You have, Mr. Fowler, with your budget?
Page 297,
Huh?
white page 297.
297. Do you have any concerns with the budget that's written? That's proposed?
Not at this time. The only thing is that what I didn't include is I know we were talking about going to electronic meters, and I know that would have to be put to bid. And I had no idea, what the cost would be, so that was not included in my
You
budget.
have put no money in there for the bid,
Just a few things, like I added some to technical, but really, I had no idea what the total cost would be. So that would be something that would have to be addressed at a later time.
once we get all the information.
Yes.
Table, Mr. Jill, question?
Yeah, what about moving to the new building? Do you have finance for that?
We've been working, and I think we've been getting everything that we need. We're working with Mr. Giles, he's been giving me approval for things. We're working on building a counter, building shelves, whatever we need to get back there.
You may need some money to move.
I should have money this year to make that move, which I got a quote on that.
Council Levine?
Mr. McCollum, in the 2018 budget, you have an increase of $46,000 more for water meters. You plan on getting new or automated water meters?
Well, actually, that's what the same amount that we had proposed last year. It's not an increase. I think the increase came into play, it looks like an increase because, later at the end of this year, we moved the money from there to supplement something else. But the 76,000 is what we've always kept in there. We used, I think what it was, 40-some thousand. We went to manual meters, which is a little cheaper in expectation of moving to electronic meters. We also leave a cushion in there due to the fact that in the past we're doing a hard freeze where meters had to be replaced on hand. So we normally keep some extra money there in case we have disasters where we need to order meters. But the 76,000 is what I had last year.
What is your status on water meters? Are you down or are you about up to?
Well, I have some in stock.
No, I'm sorry, I apologize. But your water meter readers,
We just received the 2 that we had employed last week. So as of today, I'm fully staffed. We're working on training those employees right now.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else please staff the table? Administration? Thank you, Mr. Brown. Next, please.
Okay, we don't have anybody else, I mean, I got, this is what I have left in general fund. Telecommunications, GIS, flood control, coastal zone management, coastal zone land.
We got coastal zone here. We had, Mr. Benson here.
Oh, Mr. Benson?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, we can go to that if you want to.
All right, let's do that.
7. Page, in the gray pages, 73.
Mr. Angeloni, Mr. President, budget. Any concerns with your budget? What page you saw? 73.
Use the mic, please.
What page, sir? 73. What page, 73? All right, Mr. Benson.
We need a vehicle for coastal zone, and I like to keep it where it is.
But I mean, you can't hit it.
And maybe a vehicle for coastal zone, regardless whether it's me or whoever needs it. Rocket Spears needs a vehicle, we don't have one. And really that's a must, because like I was using my vehicle to using my vehicle for coastal zone work, and back and forth to Baton Rouge, and it's getting to where my vehicle, I can't come out with it. So operations had a vehicle I was able to get, but we still, either we're going to need a vehicle for operations or a vehicle for coastal, one of the two. Other than that, if we can just leave our budget where it is and maybe add some funds for this vehicle, I'm pretty well satisfied with what we have.
Comments from the table?
The only comment I would have,
That's all right.
only comment would be an update on my dredging projects. I think the last I heard of projects is that they were having a permitting issue.
The Corps had the permit, it's been submitted to the Corps, and we're still waiting on an answer from the Corps. Now, I am working with ELOS, and they're on top of it, but I haven't had any notices yet.
I would just suggest that you try and speak with them more aggressively and try to get that project moving forward, because I'm getting a lot of pressure from the residents, and rightfully so.
Yes, ma'am, I understand, but I've been spending a lot of time on that project, and it's taking more time than I expected, but the Corps, you know yourself, you know, when you're dealing with the court, it's gonna take time. They're gonna, you know, they're gonna, make it jump through hoops and so forth, but, I am working on that very, very hard.
We're asking that you be a little bit more aggressive. with it.
Yes, ma'am, I will do that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes. Mr. Lee.
Mr. Vince, what's the status of the Bud Map Title Pass? I know they're back there, you know, working, but I'm just trying to, you know, where it is and,
Yeah, we should start dredging in, late December,
okay,
so that's moving quickly.
okay. I mean, I know I've seen them back there setting everything up and all, you know,
Yeah, we have all the burns done, the retainer burns, so,
just waiting on the dredge to.
I think sometime in December we can start dredging, so, that's being well taken care of.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Any comments from the table?
I have one question, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Gray?
Mr. Vince, I saw some emails fly through yesterday with HNTB regarding the back levy in Jeremy Bend. There were some issues with the levy being turned back over to the parish. There were some dips or something in the levy. But at some point, I'd like to get with those guys and get a more formal update as to where we're at with the next phase of the levy lift.
Okay. I spoke to Troy Douglas on that project. He's our land guy, and he was telling me, yes, they had ruts and stuff that was, I guess, delayed the levy. And what we're trying to do there is make the repairs, and according to Troy, it's pretty well complete. So we have to just move forward on that project also.
Yeah, so what's happening is the next phase of that levy lift is being delayed for inspections because the prior contractor's got some issues to take care of. They can't get on the levy to do their assessment, to put the modeling together for the next phase. So I just like to get a more formal update from those guys.
Yeah,
That's
right. But I believe me, guys, I'm on top of this stuff. I got 2 jobs to take care of right now, and it's not as easy as it looks.
No, absolutely, I don't disagree, but I'm just, so, you know, I'll leave it there. That's good.
Okay.
Anybody else? Mr. Frederick?
Yes, sir.
I need you to, if you don't mind, we talked about this before, but pigs on East Bank, rooting up the levees. We need to get the letter of permission from the past president to sign and send to the sheriff department to give them permission to eliminate those harms. But it has to come from the administrative president's office, give us permission to go and put a SWAT team to go and honor that like we did before. So they said that we have to have a consent for private back to the president to go ahead and do it. So,
Okay, I'll work there with the president.
yeah, that's all I was asking, now we get there. But you say,
Legal said they're gonna take care of it. That's good.
I'll be more than
yeah,
happy.
because what happens, you know that once they start rooting it up and everything else, that means the contract has to go back and redress those areas. Because by redressing those areas, they become change orders. And when they become change orders, that means it costs us more money.
Right, that's why I'm asking to at least leave out.
Other than that, I don't have a problem.
Okay, that's why I'm asking to, you know, leave our budget where it is, and, you know, we'll survive. It's a little slow, but, you know, we only got so many people, you know, but, you know, you guys, I've been on it,
Right.
and, you
That just
know.
is not a, giving you sign a document, a piece of paper, that's all.
Okay, all right, good.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ishmael?
Mr. Vincent, Peter, the paper you're talking about, is that for the actual SWAT team for the sheriff's office, or just for individuals who go start shooting?
No individuals.
No, this is the sheriff's office.
Okay, I just want to make sure that it's specified that it's, I don't want the public to get the wrong idea that it's the open game on wood.
Well, that's why I said that for sheriff office.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Because it's not, because you have problems.
I want to make sure it's clear.
Yeah, because it becomes trespassing then. And those people, some people are not responsible.
Right.
They shoot any kind of.
Yeah,
I might add, the reason I like doing it with the sheriff just is because he's got his own liability insurance, and if somebody
All right.
is stupid.
Thank you, Mr. French. Another comment from the table. Move to the next item, please.
John, I'd like to mention Frank Rule's contract. I have it right here to get this work done. So, President Conky is gonna sign this, so I got your job done.
Great.
All right.
What that is, that's the money that we're getting from the wildlife and fisheries to deal with the Mardi Gras Pass. It won't cost the parish a cent, and all expenditures are being paid to a cooperative government with finances from the wildlife and fisheries funding through the oyster task force. They are funding the money. That's how important it is to them to close this Mardi Gras Pass, because it doesn't provide them opportunity to deal with the oyster industry at all. So they finally realize how important it is to the industry, and they're putting up the front money. Now, they might be able to take the 80,000 from orange spreads and keep in something there. Since the orange is steady growing.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was kidding with that one. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Fellows.
I'd like to.
Appreciate your efforts on that.
Okay.
Appreciate it very much.
Let me mention this to you guys. You know, you guys have to understand that the people on the East Bank, this was their living, oysters and shrimp. And I've been looking at it, and what I'm seeing now is there is no oysters on the East Bank, and there's no shrimp on the East Bank. And we're looking at Mardi Gras Pass seems to be the problem, and everyone's approaching me about it from the East Bank, and shrimpers and oyster fishing. So Mardi Gras Pass is important that we get it closed, and then we can look at it and see, you know, if we start growing oysters and bringing the brown shrimp back in there, because that was a big season, brown shrimp. And people on the East Bank, it's all they have. So these people are, you know, talking to me every day about Mardi Gras Pass. So anyway, we'll move forward on that if you guys is okay with that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fellows, very much. And also, I want to let Brian say that the West Bank oyster fishermen also are requesting that we close this as well.
Yeah, right.
Because they had a direct relationship to them, not only dredging, but as well as feeding their leases on the West Bank.
Correct, yeah, so we're losing those reefs.
Right, right. All right, next item, please.
So what's the hiccup with closing?
The next item.
Yeah, the problem is we have to apply to the state to get a permit. So we finally got the money from the oyster task force to continue to pay the engineer. We ain't having no funding. So we had to wait on funding for them to complete it. So the task force are getting $200,000 from the oyster task force for him to finish the project and design the permit that's submitted to the state. The state is requesting that this permit be submitted before the year's out. So the one thing, Mr. Fetcher, making sure that will happen.
Thanks, sir.
On our part, anyway.
Thank you, sir.
All right, next item, please.
Okay, like I said, we have, I don't know if anybody, telecommunications, GIS, flood control.
Telecommunications, can we go in there?
Somebody call? We can.
I don't think there's much that we need to do, right?
The phone's probably on.
Just to go back and cut wires and all that stuff, you can dig, cut all the wires, and want all the people to come up front to have something to say.
Are we moving?
Can we take a 5 or 10 minute break? And then we call, get somebody call these people? All right, let's take a 5 minute break, 10 minute break. Oh, we got to
I was just stopping off.
All right, on the gray page, I tell you what, let's go to the white page, because there's something, nothing.
Executive session. Mr. Secretary.
I'm getting it right now.
Okay, we're going to
Go to the white page. All right, solid waste district 1. It's going to be on page 248 and 249.
248 and 249, 248, 249, solid waste. Okay.
That's district 1.
I'm sorry?
That's district 1.
District 1, Mr. Rousseau. Mr. Rousseau, anything in your budget you want to talk about that's been presented?
Well, there's a couple I just want to make reference to. which is the disposal of garbage.
All right. What number is that now on your?
It is, garbage, professional services, is line, garbage, 532070.
Okay. All right. So what are you saying?
It's the same, but the only difference is, and we had a meeting a couple of weeks ago, Base Pro, and they're supposed to go up on their rates from 49.31 to 60.50, and that's garbage only. So, and that's supposed to start Friday. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. They had mentioned it in the meeting. The president was there, Mr. Giles, and a couple of the Gregory mate. So that's going to make a big difference next year, and I did my budget before then. So as of right now, I got 130,000 left over, and we've been averaging 30 to 35,000 for garbage only.
So we'll have a contractor next year.
Well, we will till May.
Right.
So that contract's up in May?
Yes, sir.
We can't terminate it early as per the contract, so 90-day notice.
I don't have the contract before me, Councilman Burke, but I think you're correct. It wasn't, how can we say it? It was very advantageous to EI, whatever. Now, the problem is that there's one provision in the contract that they're not complying with. So it's a bit of a legal conundrum right now, but we're trying to work out in a collaborative process instead of going down the other route.
So can they raise the rates? I mean, without a modified contract, I don't think we should be raising or accepting their raised rates when we have a cheaper solution right here in the package. At least for C&D waste.
That's different.
C&D waste. Garbage is separate.
This is garbage.
Garbage, okay.
Right, I'm not being said that about trash. So, you know, I just wanted to make it known that it's going to increase next year if we stay with the current situation and they do go up to 60-50 a ton. So, you know, like I said, I did my budget before, but we can wait and see later. The only other place to get rid of garbage is, it would be River Birch, which that's where they bringing it to. They bring it to, we bring it to the waste station right out here by Environmental Operated, which is Waste Program, Woodland Highway, and they dump it in 100-yard trucks and then haul it to River Birch.
I guess that's my question is, if they're making a modification to the contract that's out of the control of the parish, why should we have to honor higher rates? I mean, to me, it seems like we'd be able to modify the contract and go with a more favorable rate, at a lower rate.
We did not agree to it. We've made some adjustments internally as to how we handle the CD. And so that we certainly are not, there's some sticking points, but we're in negotiations.
And it might be cheaper for us to hire a few additional folks, transport it ourselves.
Well, we'd have to get 100-yard trailers, because you don't want to send a garbage truck to River Birch, and then Gregory would have to send one from Downville to River Birch.
Right.
We'd have to transfer it in 100-yard trailers to do that. You know, and that's something we may need to look at in the future. But I just want it to be known that if they do go up, if it does happen, my garbage cost is going to increase. And that mainly what I wanted to be known.
Thank you.
Councilman Brewer?
Yes, I was in a meeting with those individuals, and they wanted to stop it the day after the meeting. And we talked to them, and we told them, no, that wasn't fair. But these people are trying to control us. I think we should have some bids out and see if we can do a better deal. They telling me, when we talked to them, they said, you can't get nobody better than us. Well, I don't believe that. Also, we made a deal with them, so y'all bring the garbage up here. And they're saving money by not bringing it here. So now they're gonna go up even though we bringing the garbage here. I'd say don't panic and let them do what they gotta do, because they trying to demand, they know they got us, and they're trying to make us pay more, because they think we gonna just let them do what they wanna do. But Mr. President, I get with them with Peter, and I go against him, if you don't mind. Thank you.
To make their fund balance, we had to cut $275,000 from District 1 for heavy vehicles, and I think he does need to purchase a new truck.
Well, yeah, we did the budget before this meeting come about, and now that we're hauling the garbage over there, because they want to charge us, they want to charge Gregory $400 just to haul it up the road, and that's not the tonnage rate. So, you know, Gregory's hauling garbage and trash up the road, which Wakeco was hauling, but then they come up with all of these figures, you know, from Bootville, they want to charge them $400, from Port South for $375, and, you know, that's just to haul it up the road. So now Gregory has 2 trucks, and I have 2 trucks, but my truck
They do have their own
is
fund
12 years
balance.
old.
I'm sorry, quick.
My truck's 10, 12 years old. Gregory got one the same age as mine, but we got 2. We got one new roll-off truck, which he has in his department that he's running with. But, you know, on the budget, you know, I put in for 2 trucks, which they only giving me $225,000. One was a garbage truck, the other was a rear loader. That's before this happened, but I'd rather buy a roll-off truck because we got to haul these containers and you know, so we got to do a lot of hauling.
They do have their own fund balance, and I believe it's $4.8 million.
How much?
$4.8 million.
Well, my question is, would it be cheaper for us to buy this piece of equipment to haul our own stuff up the island?
But that's what my recommendation is now. I was gonna do $500,000 to buy 2 trucks. I was gonna buy a garbage truck and a rear loader. And they just do away with the rear loader and buy a roll-off truck.
So what that, in not doing that, how much would we have to pay search for that? We would have to pay now to do the service.
We just gotta pay the tonnages to get rid of the material.
Yeah, I understand, but how much we paid in the past, how much we think it's gonna cost us this year to do that without us bringing it ourselves? What's the difference? Is there a difference? Do we save money?
Well, I mean, we save money by not them running it up the road.
Right.
You know, I never figured it out, but Gregory and them, I know they do probably 5 or 6 containers a day, that's trash. Maybe 3 trash and 2 garbage. I do 2 garbages a week, but I do a bunch of trash routes.
That's a day, 5 a day?
Oh, more than that. Probably him 5 and me probably 5 or 6.
So that's over $2,000 a day.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So I'm assuming that we do it ourselves, but then that budget bring them.
But we are doing it,
I'm just saying, if we put all that together,
Right.
it would be cheaper for us to buy the truck itself. And if I have to haul this stuff, we'd be on top of our own game.
Right, right.
Okay, Ms. Wade, great.
Yeah, I just,
Thank you, Mr. Michelle.
it appears that, you know, I've never reviewed the contract, but it appears that there must be some kind of breach in the contract, because if a contract is set and signed, there's no way they can go up on the rates unless there's verbiage in the contract that states at their discretion rates can be increased. So I just really think that this is something that legal needs to look at, and I do agree with the recommendation, we really probably need to look into maybe hauling it ourselves, but that would require us to probably hire a couple additional personnel just to run those routes.
Well, they have gone up on some of the rates before at the end of the year, CPR rate, that they go up for that year into the next year because it's gonna cost more to dispose of the material.
So did they just acquire the contract from EOI? Is this the existing contract we had, or whenever they took over, it was a new contract that was signed? They acquired EOI? Same contract?
Getting back to the equipment, Rochelle actually said what I was going to say about the fund balance and having about 4.6 million, which I think is sufficient to purchase those. But would that have any impact on the new project we're proposing for the collection sites?
I don't believe, because they just, they did a cost estimate of, they had an engineering firm come out and look at it. And they said it would probably, well, Ken Guggenheim said it would probably be under 400, under 300,000, because their upgrades were just going out to Katrina, just mainly around the compactor site, the concrete work and stuff. My area, I got an acre and a half. I got 30 trucks in, plus, you know, I got 23 people. A lot of y'all been there before. It's really compact, so they were thinking about building a new site off of Walker Road instead of the existing site. That way they could take that and switch it over to the sewer line if they needed.
Or heavy equipment.
Yeah, or heavy equipment if they needed.
My next question is, as far as the cherry picker and the actual truck that follows, I think I saw one back here for quite a while. Are there any plans to buy more of those combo type trucks?
I got that one, and the reason why it's not here now is because when they sent it in, it was supposed to be joysticks. So I never accepted it like that. And they're changing it over to the joysticks now. So to make sure the factory, make sure the warranty, they had to take it to Baton Rouge to do that. So they're doing that right now. I talked to a fellow this morning, should be back in a week or two.
Yeah, it just seems like those trucks would be like more efficient, unless operator.
Depending on how much garbage you got and how the manpower, if you got one man, you could put him on and let him go. That's why I bought that truck. And I just sent the other one out to auction this morning. That was a 1998 truck, like 14, 15 years old. So, you know, I do have that one. Now Gregory and them has an older one like that.
So, that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Rousseau?
I want to answer this question on the trash trucks. I'm in dire need of, and some cherry picker. The 1997 cherry picker is, you know, it's down right now. Got mechanics working on it. Got the cylinders in my truck as we speak. I need trucks. My whole fleet is pretty much gone.
Mr. Shaw, we'll come back to address, Mr. Williams wants to come back and address that. Mr. Rousseau?
Yes, in the budget, they have additional positions funded. It's a
Four. I have four in my department. I have 3 truck drivers. One of them is a cherry pick operator, automated truck, a truck driver 2. And then I have a helper position 2. That the paperwork somewhere around here. I really don't know where. But we've accepted one, sent the letters out to be signed. It's somewhere between the President's office and the civil service. I think we signed some this morning. So that'll cover a helper. The truck drivers, I don't even have a list. They've been on the board for 6 months. And there again, it's back to the pay. The amount of pay at minimum starting salary for a truck driver, it hits them. So that's...
So the money that's in this budget, the 19% increase is for a full position?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other concern is the tipping fees may be a problem.
Right.
Then the other problem you have is the vehicles. I don't know which direction we're heading in solid waste, but we've been talking about this for quite a while. You know, my recommendation that we would go out and get either an RFP or negotiate, since it's supposedly a professional service, for some tipping fees versus the cost to be able to buy trucks to haul to whoever the successful landfill is, because I think that's basically turned into a monopoly these days where you don't have much leeway. The solid waste trash, you know, I think that you can negotiate locally, probably.
We're on there now.
Save.
We're up on the riverside now with our trash.
And so, you're still paying Waste Pro though, and they're paying Riverside?
Okay. They agreed to accept the $26.20 for trash to go to Riverside, and Waste Pro just gets the tickets from them, and they invoice us the same total.
So we still, my point is, we're still going through Waste Pro for solid waste on trash, which was my point about talking about trying to go out for negotiations or professional service contracts to split the trash and the garbage, because historically, when you do that, you save hundreds of thousands of dollars. As you know, when we went from cubic yards to tons, we saved hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, you break it apart and don't pay the same for garbage as trash, we would make some money. So I would hope that out of this discussion that y'all would move forward with something in that direction to be able to strip this, but also look at the option of strictly having a contract for a tipping fee, whoever the successful landfill will be, and the cost of the 100-yard truck that we would haul at, or something to that effect, since, we're doing it anyway.
Probably need two, one for down the road, one for up the road.
Well, I mean, this is something we got to work on. We've been asking for this for a long time. And as far as canceling the contract, if you got a 90-day clause in it to cancel the contract, you only talking about an extra 30 days because by the time you get to 90 days, we're almost at the end of the contract anyway. So instead of wasting time fighting legal battles on canceling a contract that only has maybe 30 days left in it, start today and work in that direction. I'd appreciate it.
Mr. President, any comment?
It was addressed in the problem was that contract is still in place, but it was addressed, so.
Any other comments from the table? Administration? Thank you, John.
Really quick.
District 2.
I don't think we answered Scott's question about the equipment. Amendment or?
Yeah, another benefit, Councilman Burke, thank you, another benefit to allowing Scott to purchase the vehicle. It would also give us more leverage in dealing with, for the next, 6 months, dealing with this situation. So it puts us in a more powerful position. Right now, we're sort of, there are legal questions, but we're somewhat dependent, where if we had our own equipment, like Councilman Juno said, we could, we wouldn't need it as much.
Right, and the line item for heavy vehicles, they give me $225,000.
What are you asking for?
Sorry?
What are you asking for?
That's $500,000.
So then, the next thing is, if we agree with that, if we make that amendment, these extra positions and this extra equipment will allow you to be able to service the trash collection, not the garbage, the trash collection quicker.
I'm still short here, there's a driver.
Well, in this budget, you've got extra people.
Right. That should take care of it. I should have 2 crews, like today, I only got 1 caretaker crew.
With this increase of these 19% increase in salaries and wages that you outlined for us, what the positions were, will that allow you to be able to pick up trash quicker?
Yes, sir. With the extra drivers, that would be 3 extra drivers.
Okay.
Yeah. That way I'd have 2 crews. Today I only got 1.
Okay.
Same with me, I got the people.
So, wages?
No, I was just going to go to District 2. I have a couple questions. We'll move to District 2.
$275.
But additional people too?
That's already in the budget.
Yeah, but I still don't think that.
Gotta take care of mine, yeah.
That's his district.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Only District 1.
Yeah, but I don't think we resolve, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, but
I don't think we resolve the matter with the employees as far as it goes with the civil service.
But they're on the board right now, and they've been on the board for 6 months. I just haven't gotten no names.
Yeah, that's exactly my point.
You know, the drivers, the 3 drivers, the traffic operator and the 2 drivers been on the board since.
So the civil service,
It's quite a bit.
do you have any applications?
That's a position that's up until Fields. I haven't had a chance to go through it. We have not gotten very many CDL drivers.
Do you have any?
That have applied, that said they have, and when I ran background on them, they were invalid, or they had holes on their license or things like that.
And you inform the individual that they had those problems so that maybe you could correct them?
Oh, yes, I have.
And so you still don't have any valid applications, not one?
I haven't had a chance to go through it in the last couple of weeks, but I'll plan to do that once we complete this and the audit and the other things. I'll get them list. If I have any audit.
Yeah, see with a CDL license, you gotta have the license plus a medical card. A lot of times, some of them can't get the medical card, just the license don't do no good. So, that's one thing.
But we still need to be aggressive in this area.
Yeah. It's on the board. I mean, that's pretty much,
You know, I'm not speaking from your perspective, I'm speaking from civil service perspective. I understand that Ellen's saying that she's been somewhat.
I check with her every so often, and I just haven't gotten.
Just having the advertisement and not getting somebody in places, not doing us any good.
Thank you, Mr. Rousseau.
District 2?
I need drivers, I need workers. I got a guy, just before I come back up this morning, came to the job again, wanted to come to work. I went to Miss Ellen and she said she's full-handed. And a qualified driver, he used to work for EOI, he worked for Race Crew. He did Nate Blue to the compactor site. And he's been coming at me about 3 weeks straight. And I had another guy, he had got sick. He resigned, he had public stroke, now he's healthy again. He's wanting to come back to work. And I talked to Ms. Ellen, she said he had to have a CDL to do the compact operator, something like that, so they need.
That's what I got a question.
Yes.
Well, as far as the compactor, why does the compactor is required to have a CDL license?
Well, me personally,
That was changed a while back when Mr. Bill Surpass was the director of operations. He was asking for an upgrade in pay grade for the compactor operators. They were moved to the same pay grade as your truck driver ones, which also require CDL. And the reason he justified that is because they do have to operate those roll-off trucks to move the containers from one area to the other. So that's why it's a requirement for the compactor operator. It's because they may have to operate those roll-off trucks from one place to another.
Within the yard.
Or wherever they direct them to go. Yeah, but when he came to us to upgrade, yeah, but when he came to us to upgrade it, you know, then you would have somebody, you know, both right now, the truck driver one and the compactor, both have the same requirements, and they're on the same pay grade. So if you take away the requirement on it, then the balance between the equity become different.
I'm just trying to figure out where we can get around, or go through the process and get people hired.
Right.
Go for Mr. Gregory for District 2, or we get out, or we get out.
And the thing is we got applicants that we sent to them that they live out of the parish or the upper parish, but they're not willing to drive. We've made offers to them and they declined positions. And it's just, it's recruitment. We just can't find anybody with a CDL who's willing to drive to the lower end of the parish.
Well, he has 2 people that are willing and able that are coming.
I'm gonna have to check to see on those applications, to see those 2 that.
Is there anything that we can do to remove the CDL requirement from the compactors? Because, I mean, like you said, he has someone, well, this gentleman has a CDL, doesn't he?
yeah, you do.
What would happen is if you did that, you removed it, it would have to go to a lower pay grade, and then all of those employees who are currently compactor operators, they would be demoted.
Well, is he interested in the compact operator position, this gentleman that has the CDL?
What, you want to drive a truck, you just roll up truck driver?
But it doesn't have a CDL.
He's applied?
Yes.
He's got a CDL.
So, background check, he should be ready to go.
I'm gonna have to check it
Kevin
out.
Williams is his name.
Well, I know, President Cormier just showed me that, I'm gonna have to check for his application.
I mean, this is this is, to me, a priority. I mean, I know every job is probably a priority, but he's extremely short-handed.
Well, I'll be honest with you, all of our CDL drivers, I think that it's something that we do need to address in our pay grade, you know, because not just for these 2 guys here in flood control, it's the same thing. You know, to get people to, because they make more money if they're gonna run trucks on the interstate as to come here. But I mean, we offer the benefit of, we've got good benefits, we've got insurance, we've got retirement, they're home every night, you know, they're off most weekends, you know, but they have to give up more money, you know, to come to work for us. So,
That's the pitch they can sell. That's the pitch you can make.
Well, I mean, you know, if you want to send something to the commission to address, maybe looking at these truck driver positions or the ones that do require the CDL, you know, but.
Well, how is it that we may be hiring some people who the job requires a CDL and they don't even have one? How would that happen?
I think what happened is he's got some people that were grandfathered in.
I'm just talking in general.
Well, we're not hiring them as CDL drivers if they don't have a CDL. Because I do run, if they require CDL, I do run a check through the state to make sure that their license is valid. And that's what I'm saying. I've had a couple of them that I have ran that they came in and they didn't have a copy of their license. But whenever I run it, it's either suspended or they got, you know, something going on with their license where the license is not
So
valid.
you're saying we don't have anyone employed where the job requires a CDL and they don't have one?
He does have some people that were grandfathered into that position. They were currently employed when Mr. Surpass came to the commission to have that stipulation changed on those, that particular classification. They were already employed, so they were left in place. I think it was the understanding that they were supposed to go get the CDL, but.
It wasn't followed.
And we don't follow up on that. That would be up to safety, that would be up to the safety department to follow up on that sort of stuff.
You want to listen? Greg, you had mentioned something about being short of employees. I noticed there's a 39% increase in personal services. Does this include new employees in the budget?
It includes the ones we've approved already, right, that haven't been hired?
Again, he had a lot of vacancies, so when we did that mid-year adjustment, we removed all the vacancy funding, so now you're funding them again for a whole year.
2018.
Yes.
So how many vacancies does he currently have that are in this budget?
I think I got a cherry picker. I think there's two drivers, at least 3 compact operators, we were trying to go back to 7 and 7. That's how we know.
Right, and I think that's a good recommendation.
I got a helper in.
So we've approved all those positions, those have all come in front of the council?
7 are vacant in the north and 5 are vacant in the south. They're all funded.
One of the things that we had kind of talked about is, you know, if the employee doesn't have to operate their trucks at the compactor site, maybe the helper could assist, you know, the helper, we don't even require them to have a driver's license for solid waste. Because they used to ride in the back of the garbage truck and we couldn't hire people to do that. So,
And on that helper position, I can't ask him to do a high-paid job. But if something happens, he's not required to run it.
it's temporary.
Even if it happens by temporary, I can't ask him to do it.
Well, I'm just talking.
So he has 5 vacancies in solid waste salary. Are all 5 of those positions, have they all been posted?
I think all of those are already filled.
Okay,
There's a few for solid waste north also.
okay.
Mr. Gino, how long have you been with the civil service?
Since the inception, 1996.
Okay, you're doing a good job. What I'm going to ask you, do you think civil service puts a cog in a wheel for us to hire people?
I don't, because the thing is, it's supposed to be a balance because we're supposed to provide for the community to make sure that we have qualified people doing the job that the public is paying for.
I'm not against that, but what I'm saying, every time we go to hire someone, it's either that the names are taken off the list after 15 days, or else this one don't have that one don't have this. It's just aggravating where we, as a council, we can't do anything unless we go through civil service.
One thing that you could do is to increase the pay for these people. You know,
that would be something.
we're competing with private industry, but the money's not there. But it would, I mean, we could probably attract more people that had CDLs, you know, if we were willing to pay them more.
That would be easy. But I'm just saying, if civil service can kind of relax a little bit and help us more than we can help you, this is what I'm asking.
Well, the thing is though, is if we require these people to operate a vehicle and they're stopped on the road or they're in and out.
I'm not saying about that. I'm not saying about that. I'm not saying about that. I'm just saying people that come in to get applications, if they can be handled a little different. And if maybe one of them can apply for one job, he might be eligible for another. Do y'all look at that?
Usually, if we see the if they come into our office, we'll work with them and explain to them to look at the minimum qualifications, anything that they were. If we know of something that may be coming up.
Maybe somebody can read.
Well, they're supposed to be able to read and write, but, we have helped them, or they've taken the applications with them, and there again, if we knew something that was coming up, we have them apply for something that they may qualify for.
Thank you.
Mr. President, Ms. Solomon.
Yeah, just do my last comment on this. There seems to be a global issue with the pay. I mean, if you're seeing issues with pay that people are complaining about, salaries are too low, what have you, I mean, shouldn't that be a recommendation from civil service to the council or the administration to put some kind of proposal together to authorize you guys to go out and bring a pay plan back to us to approve?
Well, I mean, it could work in several ways. You could send a resolution to us for us to, to address that, to study that, to give recommendations. Administration, with it being posted for so long, until filled, we could, with their recommendation, we could bring it to the commission and ask for a special interest rate for these employees. But when we do that, you have to take into consideration, if you're going to employ them above the minimum and you're going to move them way over here, the current employees that you already had on staff, you may be starting them at the same pay that somebody may have been here for 7 or 10 years. So you have to take all of that kind of stuff into consideration. But those are tools that you can do, that you can utilize. Whereas if you address the whole pay plan and move everybody on the higher pay grade, then everybody is adjusted to that higher pay grade, and you hire the new people at the minimum.
Solomon and Ms. Williams.
Yes. Mr. Burgess just stole my idea. He's been doing that a lot lately. But I just want to expound upon what he said. Is that, and it's a very good point, Ms. Sullivan, and I think that's what we're trying to establish here. If there's an extenuating circumstance that comes up as a result of you not being able to fill a position or positions, then I think it would be incumbent on you to have a conversation, or come before the council meeting, attend council meetings regularly, and and make a recommendation to us, and then we would be able to carry those matters up kind of easily and quickly, and we would help your office in helping us. But, as long as we have this disconnect between the civil service and the council, we're going to continue to have these problems. And all of what you just mentioned, that, elevating the entire department up, you would have knowledge of all of this, so you can make these recommendations to us. But for us to just continue having vacancies and positions not being filled, and to come back 3 months later and it's still not filled, and you say, well, we didn't have nobody qualified people apply. Well, it's not doing anybody any good.
Right, and I respect that, but Ms. Audrey, you have to take into consideration, we've laid off people in the last year, and, our application basis, people are kind of shying away from us. Because if they have another job, they don't want to give up another job to come here, then when we sit through budget hearings to think that possibly they might be the next one to be laid off, because they've got the least amount of time.
But we have to try and correct that, and this is what we're trying to do.
And something else that we need to take a look at is the last time our pay plan was actually visited and redone was in 2008. Actually, the study was done in 2007. We've done some amendments back in 2014. But after 3 years, your cost of living adjusts on there. So what we're working on right now is what your average pay was from back in 2008. So most of your employees are below what the market rate is within here. Not just the truck drivers, it's all your employees. And I realize we just don't have the money. But that's up to y'all. If you want to find the money, it would make it a whole lot easier for me to be able to recruit people.
I just think it should be a closer relationship between the council and the civil service department.
Well, you can call me anytime you want.
No, I don't need to call you. I need to see you at every council meeting. And when the issues come up, that you can help us, clarify that at that point.
Yes, and if there's things I can clarify before it gets to that, please call me. I'm here for you.
Yeah, I just want to address a couple of things. regarding your recommendations that you need a resolution from the administration or a resolution from the council, couldn't you take that upon yourself? Is that not part of your job title? Do you need permission to do those type of things?
I mentioned that to Reverend Giles a while back and saying, because that, like I said, it's flood control also, it's all the CDL drivers. To do a special entrance rate with a recommendation,
Why would you need a recommendation? That's my question. Why would you need a recommendation?
Because
isn't that part of your?
No, because that's the way the rules are written, is that they can make a recommendation to us for a special entrance rate.
Oh, so we're going by rules. Okay. And another thing, as far as the employees that who you just stated have been here for years and they're promoted and things of that nature, Mr. Ingraham is a prime example. He was here for years and he was brought in as a superintendent at pretty much the base level. Why was that? Why was his years not?
He was promoted, he was...
Well, a minimal raise.
And how the rules are written, and I know, when you have someone who receives a promotion, and when he received his promotion, we look at his pay grade and his step. You receive an 8-step increase, so the pay grade he was on, he went up 8 steps. You found the yearly figure, then you moved him to the high pay grade that he was going to. If he's below the minimum, he would go to the minimum. If he's above the minimum, you find where he falls between the 2 steps, and he would go to the step above. So a promotion is usually about 8% because our steps are 1% compounded. So it's at least an 8% increase that he would receive.
So prior experience is part of that?
Well, I mean, if it's...
I'm just trying to figure out.
I mean, you have the opportunity to offer exceptional qualifications for someone who's been here for a long time. Usually the funding for that comes from the merit increase, that 3% that y'all budget, because you budgeted for the entire year and it's only given after their eligibility.
So his pay for his promotion was determined by this 8-step process?
Yes, that's in the rules, but the exceptional qualification would have to be a recommendation from the appointing authority to assign them, and that has to be done during their probation period. There has to be justification.
And was that made known to Mr. Jobs? So that would be his appointing authority?
Well, they've done it before. I mean, when we had the funding. We haven't had funding for the last 2 years, so none of that's been done. Not only to mention...
Holloway self-supported though, so I mean, funding is available in that department. I'm just asking, was that recommendation, what you just said about from the appointing authority, was that even mentioned to Mr. Jobs regarding Mr. Ingraham?
That would be up to them to come to us to ask.
Now, if he's not aware of it?
Well, they have been aware of it.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Allen. Mr. Ingraham, where are you as far as equipment? What is it that you're needing to purchase?
I need to purchase at least 4 trash trucks, 20 yards, and at least 2 cherry pickers. And for the reason, the dump site is going to...
Use the microphone, please.
I'm going to need 4 trash trucks, 20 yards, and 2 cherry pickers. So I got a 1997 cherry picker, and the rest of them, 2 of them, I got one more I just brought back over to Crane County to get fixed. It's costing me a lot of money to purchase those trucks. I mean, to get them fixed. And I talked to my director and the president and a couple councilmen, and I let them know all about it. And I need those trucks yesterday, and by Bluefield Village, the dump site down there is closing down. Waste Pro not picking us up anymore. So I have to travel, and it may come a time during the trawling season or whatever, when it's really heavy, I may need my trash truck to at least run to Belchic's. And the ones I have now, they hang on one leg. Every last one.
All your equipment is
outdated. My trash truck at least 16 years old, 15 years old. 1997 cherry picker down in Bluefield. I got the 2 old Macs, I think they're 2001s. Nothing working.
How you picking up stuff?
I got all the 1 cherry picker we have, and I have 1 cherry pick operator. And what's happening is, he has to come off the highway by being short, to unload the truck into the yard, and go back on the highway. I saw it for people. And the truck we have right now, the cherry picker is,
it's outdated, so it's hard to find parts.
right, it's getting to that point.
So these 5 vacancies that you have listed that have been approved, will that put you full staff to be able to go 7 and 7?
Yes, it would.
Okay.
I would need another compact operator in Bluefield and 2 and 4 cell. cherry picker to run whatever way I was sending the post out for the lower end, and the 2 trucks behind.
Okay. Can you make an amendment? I don't know how much this equipment is gonna cost, but can you make an amendment?
I sent it to,
You have
they
it?
all,
I have it here.
yeah.
Mr. Gregory, on your new cherry picker that you got, I watched that thing operate myself. I mean, it's like slower than a turtle.
Yes, it
It
is.
doesn't pick up what the old truck used to pick up.
No, it doesn't.
Is there any way we can see about getting that truck changed out or do something with it? I don't know who ordered it, but, I mean, it's service.
I had the guy come down from, what is it, River City? Yeah, who generally works in River City? River City, I got. He came down and he took me into the truck himself. He said, the truck is a 750 Ford. He said, just like a regular 750 ride on the road. Only difference is, it has a boom on the back. And the pump under the truck is short, it's a little bigger than this big. What we gave him is all we're gonna get. So, it's not gonna go any faster, it's strange to pick up trash, just not a good fit for us.
And it better pick up after the road truck pick up.
It doesn't. The old Princess that we was using before, much better truck.
Any comments, Mr. Rousseau?
So, moving forward, what are you gonna buy? Same, a different truck?
Yeah, I would like to buy, like the old model Princess we have, that's what I would like. So they work, the Princesses, they work pretty good.
Okay, and, back to the civil service rules, Ms. Barrios, who writes those rules? And how can it be changed?
The rules were written by the commission. Rule 4, which is a pay plan, and Rule 9, which are our benefits, have to have council approval in order for those to be actually changed.
Who initiates rule changes?
That would be the commission. Well, or it can be a recommendation from the council by form of resolution, like I explained to y'all, the public information officer. That's how that one was initiated, was by a resolution from the parish council to the commission. They took that into consideration and they created that in pay plans, and it went back to you in the form of an ordinance. With your approval, then it was officially part of the pay plan.
So, the rules were written by the commission, but can be changed by the council?
No, just the pay plan and the benefits. Anything that has to do with the money, it has to be changed by the commission. The amendment has to be made by the commission, and those two rules have to go back to you for final approval for the pay and the benefits.
Do you feel like
It
you
has
have
to do
a
with
very active civil service board?
I do.
And with these issues, back to, not being able to hire people and all, what is their opinion of those issues?
I mean, we're doing our best. I mean, the thing is you have to take into consideration, we've done layoffs. So our recruitment base is not what it should be.
Before we go any further, we really didn't do a whole lot of layoffs. Most of those positions were done by attrition, and people just leaving. So the actual layoffs, we might have the exact number, well, what, less than 50?
Yeah, well, last July, it was 30-something that we laid off. And then we had a few of those that were able to retire rather than take a layoff. Then at the end of last year for the adopted 17 budget, we had 19 positions, classified and unclassified, that were reduced from the budget.
I know, but there's a difference and a distinction between attrition and reduced from the budget and actually giving somebody a pink slip to develop this reputation that you say exists out there. And that's what I'm curious to know how that is moving.
Well, I mean, some of it is like in the proposed budget. The original budget last year, I think they had 200 names that were possible going to be laid off. So, I mean, these current employees begin looking for other jobs just in case they are the ones that are laid off. So we lost a lot of people like that started putting their name out of there. In our engineering department, all of our engineer interns, we've lost, and those were, important positions for us. And, Kelly in economic development. She did an awesome job with creating pamphlets and things like that. She put her name out there because she was listed as one to be laid off. she found another job making more money. And we're losing people like that. We have some people who can qualify to retire, they've checked into that, and they've taken retirement rather than possibly being laid off.
Well, I appreciate those comments, and, at the beginning of this meeting, I made some comments about that fact, about people going around talking and saying things about things that are in the budget, not in the budget. The bottom line is, this afternoon, if we finish this budget, that is what's going to be funded and in the budget. And so it does no good to go around and talk about, oh, they stripped this budget, they did this, they did that, when you sit up here for 3 days and work to restore 90% of that.
Right. So employees don't understand how that works.
Well, I understand that, and that's why I make these comments, because, there are people that are not employees that go around making those comments and talk about hurting people and those type of things, when this government is not here trying to hurt anybody. We are working within the framework of what we have to spend. And so it does no good to go out there and create hysteria thinking that you're going to be able to fund something when you can't get it funded. But that's enough said on that issue. The other issue is that in this case, we always talk about these studies. And whenever we do these personnel studies, I really disagree with them because of the way that most consultants handle it. The first thing they do is they come in and they go to the finance department, or they go to the personnel human resources department, and they start with the information that we already have. And then they do the same thing that the civil service department could do, or the human resources could do, and they start calling the next parish, or they call a contractor, and they get an idea, well, what is your starting rate? All of that takes, a day. And that gives you a pretty good framework of what you're going to get at the end of that $100,000 study, when you can do it in a few days.
I agree.
To get an idea of what a CDL driver works for.
That's exactly right.
Race Pro. I mean, you can ask this guy who's trying to get a job.
Yeah, but you have to be careful whenever you're comparing, government entities to private entities.
Well, look,
Private entities are always.
That is what started this discussion about we losing people because they go to other places.
Yeah, we do.
So you can't hide behind it and then use it as a tool when you're trying to get the pay stay.
And when we're trying to get people to
It goes both ways.
yeah.
But the point is, without having to go through what Mr. Juno said, all these rules that frustrate everybody, a little effort can go a long way with a few phone calls. Or the guy who wants to get the job who just left Race Pro, what was he making? And whatever he was making, he's willing to take this job, so I don't think there's that much disparity there, but if there is, at least we would know it. And that's enough said on that, but I think Ms. Alva made a good point about some communication here, and I think the board, the only time we see each other is in court, which is not a good thing. And, because we are in court, I don't talk to y'all, because y'all are in court suing us. And I don't like to be in an adversarial position conversating with people who are suing this government, no matter who it is. And I think that's pretty obvious from my comments around the community about people who sue this government, whether you're right or wrong. I have no use for you attacking the public. So a little more communication may go a long way. Thank you.
President?
Yes, just to put this all in context, the salary that the Civil Service Commission has in the pay plan is for CDL drivers $25,000 and change. Now, the fact that the commission, and this is a self-funded, as you noted, Councilwoman Williams, and I appreciate your comments and observations, this is a self-funded department. Now, the Civil Service Commission is supposed to be protecting the employees. When you don't review pay plans in a decade, you're obviously not protecting employees because you're not accounting for inflation. So that, if there's an official, I don't think that, my reading of the rules, I don't think there needs to be an official request. But let this stand as an official request that, especially in the funds that are self-funded, that there be a pay plan review for, if nothing else, for inflation. Because $25,000 a year for a CDL driver that is, it speaks for itself. It's way too low.
So, I mean, if you want to make an official recommendation.
I don't think they're needed, I don't,
To do a revision to the.
my review,
Let's finish.
So if your recommendation is to do a study of the pay plan, we would have to go out on bids in order to do that, and are you willing to fund that? And to fund the implementation of what the changes are recommended.
President?
yeah, this is just the comments Councilman Juneau noted, Councilman Russo, Councilman Burt, Councilman Edgecombe, and Councilman Williams. We have a problem here, because it's, when you haven't adjusted for inflation in 10 years, that is a failure to protect the employees. And the rules state that the Civil Service Commission is supposed to be protecting the employees. So, first of all, it's my reading of the rules that this is the Civil Service Commission's duty to keep up to speed, especially with these self-funded departments. That hasn't happened. And the other thing is, and just to clarify the record as well, on behalf of Mr. Ingraham, because I did request that, I did contact you, and I was looking for the email, because I did request. I didn't think that the superintendent of Solid Waste South was a sufficient, in parity with what his salary should have been, and your response was that the rules said that he couldn't go any higher. So, these rules that are never cited and with different interpretations, let me make this request, though, that I'm requesting that the Solid Waste South superintendent, if you could give him 15% increase. And it's my opinion, a reading of the Civil Service rules, the Civil Service Commission is not doing its job keeping up with inflation. When you don't review something, these things should have gone up. If nothing else, you don't need an expert to say it's 3% inflation a year. I mean, that's a consumer price index issue, and that should be done.
Okay, just to reply to that, well, first of all, it's not a 15% increase, it's two-step 15 of their pay grade within their probation period. So I don't know what step he's going, we have to check to see if he would have been qualified for that. Then the second thing is when the Archer study was implemented, the recommendation was every 2 to 3 years was to do an evaluation of our pay plan, which we've never gotten the support from the council in order to do that. So, I mean, if y'all want to go there and you want to do that, please make the recommendation to the commission, and we would be more than happy to go out on bid to hire somebody to do an evaluation of our pay plan. But you have to remember, it's a costly thing to implement a study.
And that's my point. Why can't we make a few phone calls to find out how far up we are on a CDL run? I mean, without having to do the whole pay plan, what happens is, we get a couple of pinpointed issues, and then we spread the whole brush across the whole board, and make it so expensive that we can't do it.
Well, but and the thing is you pick apart some of the things, it's like a domino effect or what have you. You can address just the CDLs, and that could be done in-house if that's what you want to do. But then again, you're going to have another department that's going to come up here and say, well, we haven't been able to hire deckhands or what have you. We haven't been able to hire.
Give you a basic gauge. Okay, and this is the gauge that we use, unfortunately, when I keep saying this, during my administration. If you got an advertisement up there that stays up there for 6 months and you don't get an applicant, you think you might want to look at that. If you got an application up there that stays 2 weeks and you fill it, then you know you're pretty well on point. So it's not a matter of painting the whole room with the same brush. It's a matter of looking at the needs and how they are developed from what you were looking for. So, I mean, we are stuck on this point right now because we've got a CDL driver issue. Now, I don't know that that's so hard to solve if you go back to the office and get on the phone.
Mr. President, the commission to address those CDL drivers, but you have to remember also, my department is shorthanded. The person that does all of the certification and the classification, I do not have employed right now. I'm wearing many, many hats, and it's getting to be shorter and shorter. Come another possibly 2 to 3 weeks or 3 to 4 weeks, I may be the only person in the department doing everything that needs to be done. If you adopt the 3% cost of living, we have every unclassified employee that's gonna need change forms in order to implement their salary increase. You know, not to mention hiring these people and doing the studies and everything else that needs to be done. I'm shorthanded, I need help. And I've asked this body many, many times to give me help in order to do the work that needs to be done. And I might get it introduced, but then it's withdrawn, or it's deferred, or it falls off the table, or, you know, it's turned the other cheek. I need help.
And I would appreciate it if you know, like you mentioned yesterday, you may be leaving in December. We would like advance notice so we can prepare for when your departure comes for retirement.
I'm not leaving in December. I could leave in December. But what I would like is to be able to be full staff so that I could have people trained in order to give a notice to the commission. I would like to be able to give them at least a 6-month notice. And yes, if you could fund something in the interim training for that, so that we could train a director also to take my place, I would love to retire. But I mean, right now, I can't do it. I've worked in this department, I've given my heart and soul to this, and I can't just drop the bag and just leave it with nobody there to do anything. As it is right now, we're not able to keep up. You know, we're trying our hardest. You know, I need people, I need help.
Mr. President?
And Ms. Ellen, I want to thank you for your years of service. Let me just, please, would you bring this back to the commission? Because I think it's irresponsible that the commission did not include an automatic adjustment for inflation. The U.S. Department of Labor has issues an annual consumer price index. At the very least, any pay plan that the commission wants to assert and create should include an adjustment for inflation. And this is published every year by the United States government. And if the intention is to take care of employees and see to it that the parish continues and is capable of moving forward, especially in these self-funded departments, that should have been part of the 2007 pay plan review. I mean, when I was here as a parish council attorney, every meeting there was a talk about Archer study and how we needed to increase salaries to be competitive, to hire qualified people. And it's amazing how we don't hear about the Archer study anymore.
But the thing is the adjustments to salary is handled by this body here. If you want to make an adjustment to our rule or make a recommendation to make an adjustment to our rule, that every year that we can address what consumer index is and what the inflation is and adjust our pay plan every year, we would be more than happy to do that. I'm sure your employees would be very glorified, you know, to be at market rate every year, plus to have their merit increase on top of that. But I don't know that you could afford it. You're in charge of the purse strings and balancing the budget or what have you. If you want to do that, we would be more than happy to take that.
Any more comments from the table?
I would comment, but I think it's going to...
This is the last comment on this.
I think it's going to become a little bit personal, but at the same token, I remember when the issue was that when we had Ms. Lynell Smith that was basically ran off from the department that civil service probably could have utilized. So, you know, we can get in a cat fight here if we elect to. You know, and that left a very bad taste in my mouth. You know, so we don't need to start throwing stones because you might get a rock thrown back. And that's my comment.
Move on to the next item, please. More comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I know they're trying to do a cost of living raise this year, which is probably 3%. Merit increase, 3%?
Yes.
3% of some of my employees is 30 cents. You know, it's more in a 2-week period, in over a month, it equals out to $80. So that's what we're looking at.
Thank you, sir. Next item, please.
Okay, next item is telecommunications. Page 62 of the gray.
62 the gray?
Yes, sir.
Go to page 62 gray, please. Telecommunications. See the budget, any objections, or any adds, any amendments, any questions?
Mr. John, this budget, we do have an amendment for, we're splitting out, some of the costs for, the IT department and telecommunications, so that you have two departments. It wasn't done in 2018, as we said, because this was done after the, so they can.
So this will be split.
Right, and they have the amendments, so,
What page, I'm sorry?
page, 62.
Great.
Right.
Great area.
Okay, sorry. We have a lot of gray areas.
All right, everybody. All right, any concerns? Y'all have the comments on the amendments? With our particular budget?
According to this budget, you're already taking two codes. One of them is for professional services, is $90,000. And that by itself leaves us with $78,000. According to what Bob's gonna have in his department, they wanna give, $25,000?
Mr. Chairman, can we see the new proposed budget for these departments, because we don't have it, so it's hard to follow our.
This right here, this,
Yeah, we'll pass them out.
I mean, you split the departments into two, so we're just seeing the one consolidated
No,
department.
I will pass the amendment out so you can look at the amendment.
You might be able to explain professional services to start with.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Rousseau.
as far as our professional services, what we use it for the most in our section of telecom is if something happens to one of the towers. For instance, the last couple, probably about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, we had a repair done to the Ironton Tower. And between the inspection and the new lighting system that got struck by lightning, it's $35,000. So if we go ahead and give Bob $25,000 of the $78,000 left, that leaves us with $50,000 roughly. And if something happens again to that tower and it's $30,000 to fix it, then we're gonna be down to hardly anything. And we had another incident one time where our equipment got fried by lightning at the Bell Chase Tower. So that's kind of like the go-to budget to fix a major problem. And right at the top, they're trying to cut $90,000. And then you're trying to share the budget with Bob with his own department. And so that's $25,000 off the top right there. And that's the main one. And also he has the computer backup support, and they only have $35,000 here, but he needs $63,000 to pay for the contracts for BIOS and the backup in Dallas, Texas.
We have a backup.
So, I mean, there's not even enough money just with the budget that's showing. And then I have an issue with the 525.505 is our radio circuit controls. That's a AT&T bill. Rainbow will be able to explain what it does, but every month it's like $1,200. So you'll be able to explain.
Before we do that, concerning the tower in Ironton, was that caused because of the new tower, transferring of the new tower?
Not the Ironton one.
I know, but the communication system in the Ironton tower did not match the Portland Hatch tower.
No, we got to start on lightning and remove all the strobe lights.
The lighting on the tower.
So is that, okay.
No.
I know we had a problem with that, on the communication components didn't match.
Here, you fix that.
Right, that's all been straightened out.
Yeah, sure, the company did that, it wasn't our fault.
I'm not quite sure who's paying for it.
That should have been,
I'll be honest with you, I'm not quite sure who's paying for that.
okay,
It shouldn't be the parish, that's for sure.
right. I was just talking about that, that's what I
The $35,000 that Angie just mentioned is, we had to change out the lighting system on the Ironton.
Okay. Go ahead and continue what you said, that's something you need to address, to explain.
Oh, that's on the phone circuit.
What
That's
number?
it.
525.505.
No circuits are used for backup in case we lose our microwave system throughout the parish. We have circuits going to each tower location. And that's in case we do lose the microwave, they'll still be able to communicate through the circuits. And with Ironton Tower especially, we need it because we have the FBI on the tower. We have AT&T just went on the tower, which we just signed, well, y'all went into agreement for it and everything. We are raising, we getting $2,400 a month from AT&T just for rental space on the tower.
Ms. Williams?
I was just going to, back to the professional services general that Ms. Angie was, referring to.
Oh, they matched that.
It seems that,
Go ahead, Ms. Williams.
oh,
I just wanted to listen to what you were saying.
back to the professional services general that you were referring to, Ms. Angie. It appeared that the proposed budget slashed y'all $90,000, leaving you 78 and wanting to give Bob's department the 50, the 25, leaving y'all only 50. It looks like y'all spent about $54,000 to the date of this book being published. So what, on average, and you spent about 55 for 16.
But like I was saying, just because of the incident with the Ironton Tower, it's like a cushion in case one of the towers have issue. Like I said, the equipment burned up in Bell Chase. That was probably 10,000 plus. It depends what.
But historically, it seems that y'all are spending about 55. Give or take. I understand. Things can happen and it could go up or it could.
If you leave it like this, that's fine. But if something major happens, you're gonna have to come back and say, hey, this whatever happened.
Yeah. So I think you historically speaking, it appears that the 50 is about what y'all are spending, give or take a little
Right,
bit.
unless a major problem happens.
Right.
And then we have to renew our inspections to the towers, and there's 4 of those. So that's roughly about 15 to 20.
And that comes out of the professional services general as well?
Yes.
And y'all renew that yearly or?
Well, we're supposed to, but since Mr. Jeff left, we're kind of just getting in the hang of everything, knowing what's got to be done. And we just got with the contractor that usually does it, and he informed us that this one needs to be done, that one needs to be done. So we're working on getting purchase orders to get those.
And that'll all be done in 18?
We're gonna do a couple more within the next month. And then next year, they'll have to be done towards the end of the year. Again, every year they have to be inspected.
Also, the $35,000 for the lighting system included inspecting the Ironton Tower and checking the guide cables on it. It's a guided tower, and that has to be done within like a 3-year period. Or during a hurricane season, if we have a hurricane come through, God forbid that happen. But like when Isaac came through and everything, as soon as we were able, we got a tower company to come out and check the structure and cables on.
So back to the communications radio, you're saying $1,200 a month is what we pretty much
I'd
budget?
have to look at the bills, but yes. And that's every month. You can't do away with it because it rides the microwave system.
So we need to try to put that up to at least $12,000 increase, I would assume, because there's only $1,100.
It honestly, well, they were telling us, I probably typoed when I entered this, it probably should have been 10. If it stays like this, it's fine, but if something major happens, we're gonna have to come back.
Okay.
But we're trying to give Bob, according to his, I don't know where he got this from, but they want to give him $130,000 out of the operating budget versus, that's without his salary, and that leaves us with $139,000 to run telecom. So it's kind of,
Ms. Sullivan?
Yes, Mr. Randall, you mentioned earlier about FBI. You have FBI on that Ironton Tower. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
That was done back before, back when Jeff and Randy Johnson was here. The FBI has an antenna, they just use the communications off of the tower.
And I kind of remember when it was done, and I have a little history up there, and there's an issue that I will be addressing with the court, because from what I understand, there's a camera, a high-tech camera on that tower also that was done for the purpose of watching the river or something of that sort, but I had issue with it back there when it was done during Burgott's tenure. And that means that community, that entire community is under surveillance at all times. And this is an issue that I will be taking up with the court, because, I think it potentially could be a problem, a major problem. There's a law that prohibits, surveillance of a residential people home being surveilled.
Correct, I've been told about that.
And the reason it was given back then when it was done is that, in an event that there's an accident on the river, okay, there could be an accident virtually anywhere on the river. And there's, for it to be just specified, specific for that area, that community, I have concern. So I just wanted to throw that on. I just thought that you could elaborate a little bit more on that. But thank you.
Any comments from the administration?
Do they pay us?
Who's that?
The FBI pays us?
Yes, $200 a month.
Wow.
Raise the rate.
Boy, for them, it's cheap.
I had nothing to do with it, so.
Yeah.
Councilman King?
Sir, Pat, this is the increase and decreases from the telecommunication going into what will be the telecommunications budget, total budget now.
Their operating budget will be $156,660. And their capital outlay will be $22,000.
So a total of 177. Thank you.
Y'all are requesting an increase?
We can leave it like it is.
All right.
We'll just have to come back to y'all if we need more money.
Next, any other questions?
Telecommunication, while we're here, maybe Ms. Ellen could come up and address the question that I'm going to have regarding the PBX operator.
PBX operator.
PBX
I'm
operator.
sorry, I don't know.
I think my question is
I'm sorry.
for Ms. Ellen. Where are we with the PBX operator?
I had a request from the past president to reinstate somebody, but that person was not eligible. I spoke to that person, and she knows that she needs to apply for it. She's ready to do that, but I haven't gotten the official notification from the past president to advertise for the position.
Mr. President?
Thank you, Councilman Trufant, for that question. First of all, it wasn't reinstate someone, it was to reinstate the person who had the position prior to the defunding of the position. And once again, there are different legal opinions being issued here, one by Ms. Barrios and one by the administration, which is that because the position was defunded, that it was not voluntarily that that person would move to other employment. So therefore, that the reinstatement would be proper. It's another example, though, of
The problem I have with this, Mr. President, is that this is an ideal situation where communication between the civil service and the council or the administration could be at work. Okay, the problem is that there's a situation, a problem, as I mentioned earlier, extenuating circumstance, that we're trying to get a position, a needed position filled. I mean, what's the problem? We're not asking anybody to break rules or break laws or anything. We're just asking you to fill a position. So you're saying that it has not been an application?
I had a conversation with Mr. Fournier, explaining to him, and I showed him the rules, that the person didn't qualify to be placed on a reemployment list, the person who's currently employed, and explained to him that we need to advertise for it. That employee has come in and given me an application waiting for this to be posted on the board. I have not received the letter from Mr. Cormier to post the job to fill it, through the certification process.
Now, and you see, it gets us, once again, with circular arguments we're hearing, because we're told that, and I do believe that civil service is shorthanded, and I was trying to help civil service by eliminating all this burdensome paperwork and all these cogs and wheel, saying reinstate the person who had the position. The difference is that Ms. Barrios' legal opinion is that, according to her reading, that no, when the person who had the job, when it was defunded, that because they took another position, that, oh, well, it can't be reinstated because the person took a lesser paying position. Now, my interpretation of the rules and law is that it was not voluntary because the PBX operator was defunded, and so that wasn't voluntary. Interestingly enough, Civil Service Commission's position, once again, the Paula Dell case was one way interpretation, and now in this case, it's another way interpretation because Ms. Paula Dell was also defunded, but yet the commission takes a different interpretation. So, there's a clear difference of opinion. My legal theory on this was that when a position is defunded, and my theory would apply across the board, including the Paula Dell case, when a position is defunded and that person loses their job, it's not voluntary. I mean, that was involuntary by the person who held that position. So I certainly feel that my interpretation is the correct one. Once again, and also it would help the understaffed, civil service office, because then it would be that much less regulatory burdens and paperwork and loopholes and advertising costs to the parish. And it needs to be filled. Bottom line is the position needs to be filled. The person who had the job before is ready and willing to take the job. And unfortunately, we're going to have a shortage there because of I'll just say medical issue without mentioning anything. But once again, the easy way is not being done. It's more.
I trust based on what you just said, Mr. Cormier, that this position will be filled within.
Well, and the thing is when I first had the conversation with Mr. Cormier, if he had sent the letter, that advertisement would have already gone up, the testing would have been done, and the person would have been in.
And that's the problem, Ms. Barrows, with all due respect, is that, once again, the Civil Service Commission has taken an adversarial position and throwing cogs in the wheels. And so, I don't want to file a lawsuit. I mean, I've sent an email, I requested that position be reinstated. The person who had it before would like to return to that spot. And it's amazing how civil service is taking on the rule. They interpret it one way for Paula Dell, and they interpret it the opposite way when it comes to this position. And I'm as frustrated as you are, Councilman Jumon, on some of these issues. I was trying to save civil service some, I know they're understaffed, and this would eliminate, yet again, advertising and all the paperwork problems that go with it.
It's a simple fix, but anyway, let's move on.
Jen, in the interest of trying to complete our work here, let's try to move on and stick on the budget and finish this up today.
You have a comment on your budget? Yes, sir. You all right?
I'm all right.
All right. Any comments on the tape? Next item?
Next thing is GIS management. Robert Spears is the one that handles this, and he had to leave sick, so I guess we just go through it.
Anybody here will have any comments on GIS?
That is on page 66 grade.
Page 66 grade.
The $27,000 increase in salaries, if you explain that.
The full year for, position that was added last year.
What position is that?
What was that for?
Yes, Mr. Orange Festival? The GIF.
There is, you have time to say?
Yes.
Any other questions from the table? Administration? Next, please.
Next thing is flood control.
Page number?
71. Page number 71. 71 and 72.
Page 71 and 72.
Mr. Chairman, I reckon I'll handle this one. Mr. Cormier has asked for some more positions for heavy equipment. And that would help us maintain the levees. As y'all know, we do have a whole lot of extra acreage that we do have to cut now, and that's only increasing as new levees come online and get turned over to us. And I'd just like to reiterate that we also need some sort of funding in the budget so we can pay for the western coastal enclosure. So with that, I just hope y'all give us at least some of those tractor operators. I don't see the western closure figure in here. It's not in there. That's why I'm saying we need it.
Tommy has an,
But we have an amendment, but we have it in land.
It's in land, okay, fair enough.
It's in lane, yeah. There's a specific line item for that.
Any comment, Mr. Lapine?
Tommy, could you explain that, I guess, 510050, the increase of 217,000 in salaries, is that not
We
included?
don't have the equipment operators,
Okay.
and the difference of bringing all the positions to full salaries from the vacancy money was about last year.
And a 3% merit increases.
Okay, but that's not funded vacancies,
He had one funded vacancy in there,
it's one.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions, please?
You said one funded vacancy, but it's adding several positions.
Adding five.
Administration? Next item, please.
Okay, coastal zone land.
We don't have a budget item, council members, to fund the superintendent position. Right now, Mr. Troy Douglas is doing the job. I had done it for a while. But if he's gonna do it, and I think he's doing a pretty good job. He's learning while he's on the job. He had some prior experience. So far, I think he's doing a pretty good job, all things considered. But he's not being paid for the job he's doing. So if we could fund that position, just go ahead and give it to him, that would probably be a good thing. And you could also probably use an assistant because there's a lot of levy inspections and reporting that needs to be done. But neither of those are.
Is it in the budget?
This is the levies.
Yes, in the budget?
No, it's
The
not the
position.
budget. So neither of those were funded. They were vacant positions that y'all, that believe. Yes.
How much is the increase is, what you choose like a salary?
Well, whatever it was when Blair was here.
Yeah, but we pay.
I think it's 60, so it's,
Wood's starting
Blair's
salary is
saying
42,832 for,
I'm sorry?
the superintendent,
Is what?
42,000.
Blair had a lot of experience, so it shouldn't be as high as Blair.
They are started somewhere also.
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, whatever the base salary is, let's do that.
2,000, what he makes now?
The point is that he's already on the payroll somewhere.
He is, yes,
When you
sir.
put him in another position,
I think it'd be like $2,000 more, I think, from what he's making.
what's gonna happen to the position that he needs?
Next year with the 3%, he would make 35,210.
And what's the difference?
Almost 10, 8.
7,600.
Lines are limited to budget that.
So let's go back to civil service. Are you gonna transfer this guy to this department without advertising? What's civil service gonna say about that?
The person that Joe was referring to is employee of the heavy equipment operator.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which are different, minimum qualifications, so yes, he would have to apply for it. It is a promotion, so yes, it would have to go through the certification process. But that's not an issue. If he's got the qualifications to do the job, if he's done the job, you can verify, on his work history that he
Yes,
has.
ma'am.
So he would get the points,
Yes, ma'am.
In order to qualify. He'd be on an employee list to go above a new entrant list, so he should make the list.
And then the other position, what will happen with it?
Well, that was, Mr. Lyons had that job, and he's of course retired now, but he used to help Blair drive up and down the levels and check.
No, he's referring to the heavy equipment operator position.
Oh, that
Has
position,
that been
oh, I'm so
filled?
sorry, pardon me. Well, I guess that's gonna end up being vacant, and we'll have to fill it too.
So, at the end of the day, we're gonna have to balance this budget. And we're throwing a lot of things around here and putting positions in or talking about them and all, so, when's crunch time? After lunch?
Yeah, there's a special meeting called at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're gonna have time to go through all these amendments. So, yeah, we're gonna need a couple hours to do that. And then when y'all finally come to that, we gotta put all this stuff together real fast, so we
So
can
my-
do the ordinance.
My question, my thing would be not to fund the position that's in the heavy equipment that he has now.
Right, so he leaves.
Not to fund that.
You can't unfund it
But you
until
can't
you
unfund
vacate
it,
that
that's what it
position.
says.
I'm sorry?
You cannot unfund that position until you vacate
Because
it.
he did it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, I understand that. But the intent is to get him to vacate it and not fund it.
We'll just leave it vacant after he.
Yeah, but not fund it though.
Well,
I mean,
Well, you're gonna have to fund it because he's currently employed in it. We
No,
can
I'm
keep
talking about
on.
now, but once he's employed in a new position, it becomes
Well,
unfunded.
they're proposing 76,000 in this for salaries. What does that consist of? There's 76,000 for the inland department for salaries proposed. Is that one employee?
Miss-
That's her and a superintendent?
A survey assistant.
Okay, just the people that's in there currently.
Yes.
you got a survey assistant in your department?
He works the floodgate most of the time.
Right.
Nobody else wants that job.
Nobody wants it.
24-hour call, 7 days a week. Do I have money down there?
No, the point is that he was a survey
Not that
assistant, you would think he'd be in the engineering department with a surveying crew.
That's his title. I don't know how he got it, but that's his title.
Yeah, we're gonna provide to get that.
I know he used to go on levy with the station workers and
That's what he was hired at.
if I'm not mistaken, flood control, heavy equipment, had, water chief and I think 2 surveyors or something that was in the heavy equipment department. At some point, they took those people out of heavy equipment and put them under the land department.
And they would go around as a team.
And then, eventually, the other 2 positions, I think, one of them went back to the engineering department, and the other one was vacant, they didn't fund it, or something, and he's the last one that was left. Okay, but he just came from another department.
So I guess we just leave their budget as is and then adjust it as needed. But if he's portraying the role as the superintendent, I think it needs to be addressed.
Well, we're gonna pay $7,000, we're gonna give him a salary since he's doing the job.
One could bid more.
Well, 40 something to begin with.
I'm sorry?
The entry level, like,
You said 40-something thousand, right?
Right.
He's banking 30-something now, right?
Mr. Chair.
But you're gonna have to fund the full amount in the land department. You have to fund the full
All right.
42,000.
Mr. Chair.
All right, wait a minute. You couldn't get to it. Okay, thank you. Councilman Black, then Councilman Page.
I know the president's not here, but maybe Mr. Frosch can answer this for Shane. Mayor, is there any possibility then we can consolidate departments? And this is a prime example where I think that might be a possibility. I mean, you're the only person there right now, officially. Shane? Mr. Frosch? Is there any departments that can be consolidated there, coastal zone land, consolidated with another department that you guys oversee?
We pretty well full at this time.
Full.
And the wages haven't changed, just like myself, I'm doing 2 jobs, and my wages haven't changed, and that's fine. But, I think if you go to different people and want to do that, you're gonna have people that's gonna be asking for more money.
No, I'm not saying more responsibility, I'm saying instead of having these multiple departments.
I mean, if all you're talking about doing is changing the budget headings and the budget codes, I mean, I'm sure that's gonna, you can do that. I don't necessarily think you're gonna save any money by doing it, but you can administratively have them under the same code. I think we're cut so much now that you're not gonna get any benefit from consolidating. But except that, you know, it might be on one page instead of 2.
You don't get my point.
I'm sorry, I'm asking.
It doesn't speak for itself, I would think, so we still need to address this guy doing a job that he's not being paid for. Even whether we consolidate or not, we have a gentleman that's doing a job that's not being paid for the work that he's doing.
Now, I mean, you know, land used to be under the legal department. And because of the contracts and because of the issues we had with the, you know, royalties and so on and so forth. And that's how LV and Miss Maggie ended up in our department, is they were there running the land aspects, and then it got taken out. So, I mean, I suppose we can consolidate there.
Well, land's already on the coast.
That's what my question
Why do you
is.
have to move it? It's already there.
My question would be, is the gentleman doing the job, is he doing it effectively? And is it working well, is it kind of a health situation not for him to be there?
Yes,
To be
sir.
more productive?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
And let me ask you this,
Mr. Rousseau.
you still work in heavy equipment department sometime? Or does he work in your office all the time?
He's doing land pretty much full time.
Well, yes.
In fact, he's in Baton Rouge right now. All right.
Well, I recommend we probably need to make an amendment to add his position into this land, and then once he's transferred over,
Well, he's not gonna be transferred, you have a problem.
well, yeah. I mean, unless we continue to operate with people.
I don't see it being a big deal. Work for us.
Job vacant, Ms. Is it up? Job is over.
Land superintendent. No, that's what I'm saying, we're gonna have to budget for this employee to be transferred into the land department,
Right,
All right.
right.
because that is where he's working.
Right, and it's not a big deal, we put up in the 2 weeks, and then we send a list over to them, and then they confirm, you know, the candidate, and then he's officially moved, then the other position that he's coming from will be vacant.
There you go, Miss Ellen, you're working with us.
He has to get the authorization to do the advertising.
Next item, any other questions?
I want to make a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
We've always been under the president's department. Then to remember that. The land department's always been under the president. We answer directly to the president. And then a few years ago, they put us under coastal zone management. But we still answer to the president. We've always been under the president until now. Like that state. We've never been on the legal department.
What you want, you recommending something else?
Well, I'm stating that we have never been under the legal department. For decades, we were under the answer directly to the president. And then we were, when P.J. Horn came, they put us under with him, but he didn't sign anything for us. We still answer directly to the president.
So you want to go back under the umbrella of the president?
Oh, I'm fine where I am, but I'm just making this clarification that we've always answered directly to the president.
Yes, ma'am. Any board members? Administration? Comments?
I recommend that we recess for lunch.
I'm not entertaining about that.
Okay, there's a recommendation.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to recess for lunch at the demand of Nicole Williams and Art Shaw.